Okay, so we are now live, and I am here with Sargon, who has just finished speaking with Paul Joseph Watson, and what's that girl's name?
Elise.
Elise, yeah, who is apparently drunk.
Yeah, she's cool. She's a really nice girl.
Yeah. Uh, so we're going to be talking about Loligate, hashtag Loligate, and the Lolicon question and Lolicon, generally
Okay, so
speaking.
for any journalists, sorry, for any reporters at Right Wing Watch, hi Jared, how are you doing?
Oh man, is this
let
going to
me.
net me my first hit piece? That'd be
I hope
great.
so because I'm going to be clear on the outset. I'm against Lolicon. I'm opposed to it.
Oh.
So I will
Oh.
be arguing the anti case in lieu of Count
So do
Dankula,
you
who
think it should
didn't.
be?
Well, let me
Go
in lieu of,
ahead.
in lieu of like as a representation of the people who are on the other side of the argument. But I mean, really, this is
Oh,
not the sort of thing
okay.
I'd normally get into. But these are also things that I'll tell you what I personally believe. I as we get into it. But I'm opposed to Lolicon. I understand the pro position. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I think that Lolicon is in fact moral.
Jesus, all right. Okay, yeah, go on then, Louis. Let's hear that. Why is it moral?
Well, so there's the short explanation and then there's the long explanation. I don't really know if I want to do the long explanation because I think that the long one or the short version of the long explanation is that I think that humanity has basic needs, and one of those needs is in fact artistic expression. I think that one of the things that we value in terms of humans, and you can find this all over the world, no matter what civilization or tribe you're talking about, you will find art, music, etc. And I think that it is a form of expression that all of humanity requires. We need it to exist.
Right.
Uh, and without it, we suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It's removing part of us that is part of our humanity.
Hmm.
And I think that it is immoral to censor art for the sake of something. When you censor art, what you're trying to do is enforce social engineering. There's not a case where there's not been censorship of art where that has not been the direct reason for why it's been censored, is social engineering.
Right.
And
Okay.
if you disagree, find me an example.
Okay. Okay. I love how much you've thought about this.
No,
Right.
I'm
But
serious
it's okay.
because
No, I've thought about this a lot as well. No, I accept what you're saying on the face of it. You know, I can see your arguments there, and I'm not in disagreement with the idea that humanity does have the basic need of artistic expression, and that it is immoral to censor art, and it's a form of social engineering. That's correct. I'm not in disagreement with that, but that's not the only thing that we have to talk about here.
no, it's not. I mean, I can talk about this. I mean, the thing about this is that we can have a meme conversation, we can have a casual conversation, or we could have a serious conversation. And with the serious conversation, I don't think that you've already conceded my main thrust, which is going to be that the people that are looking to censor this don't actually have a reasoned position for why they want this banned. They just find it disgusting and think that, if anything, what you'll see is what Dank offered as a just throwaway flippant defense, which is it causes something. Lolicon causes something.
Right. Okay. That's not my position.
Right. And I'm explaining what he said in just a flippant defense for why he believes what he believes.
Yeah. But I imagine I agree with you that this is essentially the same reaction that Christians have to Dungeons and Dragons.
Correct. But here's another point that people brought up, and I find this to be very accurate in terms of an argument against more so his position than yours. But it's the issue of, let's say, for example, that with violent video games, that the social scientists researched video games and their impact on, let's say, the United States or Canada or the UK. And they found that the impact of violent video games on young men was an increase of 2% of more violent crime. That could be directly correlated with the impact of violent, like shooters, for example. And if a politician then came out with policy to say, okay, we have the correlation. These violent games cause more violence. We should then censor them. I would still be fundamentally opposed to that legislation. And it would be on multiple grounds, but most of all, I would be basing it on the fact that, again, I find censorship of art to be immoral.
Okay, so I'm of the opinion that there can be things that I find immoral that do not have to be illegal.
Well, the problem with art is that okay, fine,
let me lay out
fine.
my position.
Okay,
I'm going to build on this. I just want to see.
go ahead.
Do you agree or disagree? Or I mean, that's obviously something we can agree to, right?
Repeat yourself.
There are things that I find immoral that should not necessarily be illegal.
Sure.
Right. And I agree with you that coming from a sort of liberal perspective, through a liberal lens, I am also concerned about the censorship of arts, and I'm concerned who's doing the censorship, to what extent it goes. I don't think it's just black or white. I think there is a gradient to it. And I think with any kind of ideology, you have to make sure that you are also grounding the ideology in the real world, because otherwise you end up with effects that you don't expect because you are wishing for a certain thing to be true rather than actually paying attention to what is true.
You might need to say that a different way because I'm not sure I'm following.
Right. Okay. So the arguing for a principle is always arguing for the best possible case scenario.
In effect, yes.
It has to be, hasn't it? It's the ideal.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to trap you. I'm genuinely trying to lay out.
No, and I don't think you are either. I'm just trying to understand.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So you're always arguing for an ideal, and I think that we can all agree that we're never actually going to meet the ideal.
Sure.
Right. So we accept that we live in a fallible world, and that there are always going to be actual restrictions in practice as to what we would like to see the principle be realized as. And so the goal for a sort of the reasonable liberal, is the way I guess I think of it, is to get as close to the principle without fucking up other things on the way, right?
Sure.
So I mean I'm just not that I can't.
But
think
again, I think that generally speaking, like for the example of, let's say, policing is never going to be perfect. We're always going to have bad cops, but it's the striving for an ideal, and cops are required in order to live in any kind of society. Going all the way back to like medieval times, you still have guards.
Yeah.
So
and the net effect of the system is an overall rise, in living standards, in safety and health.
Right.
So that even if individual police can be bad and must be punished, and we have ways of keeping them accountable.
Sure, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But the net benefit of having a police force massively outweighs the disadvantage of having some corrupt policemen. So that's why we do it. And this is the thing: with everything operating in a real world, you can never be like autistic about the principle, because that's you effectively going, right, I'm an ideologue and I will not accept anything else, which means you can't really operate. You end up marginalizing yourself.
Well, I can understand the argument that you're making, but I don't actually approach the issue of art from the position of like hang on. Oh, fine.
Hang on, because we're not there yet. That's the thing, right? All I'm describing are things that are true, that we both agree are true, right?
Sure.
And that's the point. I'm trying to establish where our common ground is, because that's effectively where we find ourselves at this point. Because I mean, I agree with you that in principle, it would be good to never censor art. And I don't like the idea that there are times where, because of the reality we live in, it might be appropriate to compromise on certain areas. So, and there definitely are areas like that I'm sure you would also agree, like anything that includes a victim, maybe.
I can agree with you, but I can tell you that in this case, in this particular case, I am unwilling to compromise.
Well, hang on. Let me, like I said,
go ahead.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is why I'm saying what you're doing is you're effectively being a zealot on the cause.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there we go. I mean, like, you're going to end up getting sidelined, because that's what happens to zealots, unless you're prepared to lead a revolution.
Well, no, it's just a matter of like it's just a matter of like
revolution.
The fact is that the way that I approach this is not even from the standpoint or even the philosophy. I mean, it is in effect the liberal standpoint in terms of philosophy, but my stance on art is more from the Nietzschean perspective, in that I believe that those that wish to censor the art are the Untermenschen. They are the weak. They are the people
Yeah,
that fear ideas, that fear expression, that fear someone else's ideal.
Yeah.
And I think that I would say, like, I thought about this last night. Actually, that video you did talking about Don Lemon, about like how a Nazi thinks.
Yeah.
That I thought that was actually a very good video, because it's actually, in fact, true about how he was thinking about whites. And it's crazy because he's married to a white man.
Yeah.
So that's how you know you're dealing with a fucking ideologue.
Yeah, but no. The difference, though, that's not a white man. That's whatever the guy's name is. That's
right.
That's
yes.
an individual identity. You know, it's not the construct of white men.
Right.
That's how they do it every time. They can separate like that. But sorry, are we getting off topic a bit?
No. Just real quick. I was going to say that I thought about to myself, is there any group of people, is there any, like, if I were to fit one person into the category of non-people, basically like elements, like, is there anyone that I would have in effect demonize? People that I think are not, I'm not really sure it would be less than human, but like I have a social Darwinist attitude towards.
Well, like Germans.
Maybe so, but in effect, people like that I see as fundamentally.
Sorry, I just said it was a joke, obviously.
Right? But I see as fundamentally as worthless. And I thought about it, and it's true. I thought, because there was a person I interacted with a long time ago, and I made 2 videos about on my channel. This is a long time ago. Some of my first videos, and it was with an artist who was in favor of censorship. And I thought to myself, that is the only group I can think of right off the cuff of people that I think are that if they were in a jail, like about to be executed, and I was the one that basically had the power to release them or to allow them to be executed, I would ask them, do you believe that art should be censored? And if they said yes, I would let them die, because they are in effect the weakest people in the world, because they understand the impact of they understand that art is essential to humanity. They understand this.
Well, yeah, but I don't know why we have to generalize to a certain group. Why can't we just pick out individuals who are basically fucking worthless? I mean, there are loads of them. I could reel off a list of names off the top of my head. You know,
sure.
we don't need like entire groups. We can just tune them.
But my point is that by my reason for bringing that up is that you could categorize me as a zealot in this way, because I think of it from the Nietzschean point of view, in that, again, that there are those that will defend ardently the right for everyone to express themselves, even in forms that people find grotesque. I find those to be the Untermenschen, because they stand for something. And those that wish to censor art, censor the artists, and to shield the public away from just what is nothing more than a painting, a drawing, a piece of music, something that is utterly it is innocuous. It is innocuous. There is no direct effect of it. It's how people perceive it, how they react to it.
Well, I agree. And I can completely understand your argument. And I have other arguments that we'll go into later, but that argument I think is compact and it makes sense. And all I would say to that is, okay, go and post it on Gab, and I will make a video supporting you.
Okay, so this is the second issue. This to me is the second issue.
That's the point, though, isn't it? That's the
point. It's not.
No, listen, right? I'm not, and again, I'm not saying this to be a dick, but like this is the problem with adopting the position of a zealot. Because I mean, like, you're not irrational. The fact that you can say, yeah, this is the zealot position I'm taking, shows you're not being irrational about it. You might have an emotional reason for doing it.
Right. Right. I do think that the like I said, that it is a position of, I think with any kind of Nietzschean argument, it does come from a position of not just intellectual thought, but also passion.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, like, if I was irrational about it, I would be condemning you using whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. You'd be spurging out at me.
Yes.
But you're not, you're capable of thinking about this, right? Even though it's a conviction.
But I do defend myself. I do say that if you were to perceive me as zealous about this, I would say that is correct.
Well, yeah, that's obviously correct. But the thing is, like, you're taking the zealot's position because you're not prepared to compromise. And the reason I say, well, then go and post it on Gab and I'll support you, is that you run into the dilemma that every zealot has, that reality doesn't actually match what you would like.
So that's the issue of Gab is, and the fact is people are pointing this out. You can actually post a lot of this on Twitter and not get in trouble.
Yeah,
like Shadman has posted
it doesn't
that.
matter. It's not about comparative standards.
No. But let me explain. So with Gab, the issue is, I understand your point of if the only
you're asking for real communism. That's what it is. You're asking for real communism. You're asking for something that has never existed, or doesn't exist, and won't happen. I mean, maybe Gab will come back. Don't get me wrong.
Well, the issue with censorship,
it just doesn't match up with reality. That's the problem. Like,
well, the issue with censorship in the United States, at least with us, I know that in your case it's a lot different in the UK, but in the United States, most, like the FCC and the other organizations that exist in the United States that act as censors, they are a pen stroke away from not existing anymore. All it requires is enough people in politics demanding specifically those organizations, and or enough of the public basically taking a stand against censorship, and the right person saying FCC are censors, because they are. That is what they do. They are professional censors. And if enough people request it, or the right person in power, like say the president, issued an executive order, the agency's gone. So the issue is in the United States that there is a limited amount of censorship that still exists, but it could be removed. The issue is that in other nations, in Europe and all over the rest of the world, it's a lot bigger of an issue. And I can recognize from what you're arguing that at least overseas, it's a lot bigger of a problem to eventually get to my standard of where I'd like things to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I don't think we were ever actually going to get there either. So, but so the thing, my opinion with this lolly stuff is, I agree that it's not, there is no victim. It's just a picture. There is no victim. It's not even a picture of a real person, right?
Yeah.
So it's, there is literally no victim. I agree that shouldn't be made illegal because there is no victim. That doesn't mean that I don't find it immoral. I mean, I find that immoral in the same way that a Catholic priest finds homosexual sex sinful.
Sure.
That's something I like. To me, it just seems really sinful and gross.
Sure. I mean, I won't even argue otherwise. Like, it doesn't, like, my position isn't really to convince anyone of like my position of morality. My whole position isn't necessarily to say it is moral. It's just based on the fact that I find art and expression to be moral. It's based on that position. And I think that it basically puts other people on their back foot to then argue against that position, argue against art, because that is in effect what they're doing. And
in effect, but I think that most people aren't zealots, and so they'll.
I don't know, man. People seem to be really trigger happy on just going, I don't like this, and boom, get rid of it.
Exactly. When it comes to free speech, people aren't zealots. So I would not argue for the most extreme position there.
I think you honestly, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be argued in the same way that I am, but I think that by making concessions in that way, you're leaving yourself open to have someone take away your right to speak, and then just say, "Hey, come on, I'm meeting you halfway here, aren't I?"
I think that's an extreme way to view it. I don't agree. So okay,
we should talk about Gab. We should talk about Gab.
Yeah. I was gonna try and bring it to Gab actually. But before we do that, we have to talk about whether it's free speech or not.
Sure.
I don't think it is free speech.
I don't see how.
Well, how is it political?
Speech isn't defined just as being political.
Well, yeah, it is. Otherwise, you could shout fire in a crowded theater. That's not a political statement.
That is legal.
Oh, is it actually legal in the United States?
It is. The only thing that isn't legal, because that case got brought up.
Why do they always say that you can't shout fire?
Because people don't know what they're talking about. People don't understand constitutional law. Yeah. I forget the name of the case, but that case was kicked down, and the new standard is basically it's based on two standards. It's direct call to action. So let's say you're there, and I say, "Hey, there's Sargon. Let's beat the shit out of him." That's a direct call, and it's like immediacy. You're right there.
Sure. Okay. So fine, but like
That's
the
the
way,
standard.
yeah, but what they're saying is that free speech is a political concept. It's to express political ideas. I think that what you're talking about is free expression, which I suppose is a broader subcategory, of which free speech would be one part. You're talking about, like artistic expression, which is fine, but that's not necessarily political. But that may well be censored for other reasons, like the Catholic Church finding a representation of Jesus to be inappropriate or something like that. It gets censored by the church, but that's not actually a political statement in the meta politics of the society in which you live, apart from with the Catholic Church. So, I mean, then we get into the sort of postmodernist views. Is every contradiction a form of politics?
Well, I would say that
Maybe.
if the person that's making it political are those trying to legislate against it, it's not the artist.
Right.
They're
Okay.
not. Yeah, so they're not the
so
ones making anything political, but the person reacting to it and pursuing legislation against it. Like in the case of video games, that's what it was every single time.
Yeah, because what we're not actually talking about like the legal realm, the political realm. We're talking about society, not the state, and it's how society is reacting to this. Because I mean, Gab was just a part of society; it was an independent platform created by a couple of guys, So it's not that we're talking. It's what we're actually talking about is the public morality. We're not really talking about law.
Well, it's a little bit different in the case because in the case of Gab, what was done against it appears not maybe everything, but in terms of like the claims of TOS violations and termination of contract, that appears to be legal.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about Gab and Lolly.
Well, in the case of Gab and Lolly, it is in effect a private, it is in fact a private platform that can in fact enforce whatever rules that it wants. The issue is that in effect, you can't go around screaming at the top of your lungs, advertising that this is a free speech platform, and then out of nowhere, even after you've addressed the issue of not safe for work content, where you've created a thing that you click, like a selection as you post to click, because that was the original problem that they claimed they were having was, Stripe or PayPal or whoever doesn't want to do business with us because they claim that we have porn on our website, even though so does Twitter, so does every other website. It's bullshit. But okay, they tried to meet it halfway. We'll create the not safe for work tag. That was it. That was a compromise that I was willing to make. Yeah. That's fine. Because at the time I was posting like borderline porn on my Twitter and on Gab. So I said, okay, fine. It's just a not safe for work tag. And the people that don't want to see it can opt out. And the people that do want to see it can opt in. That's fine. Because I understand that they're trying to get this off the ground. But that's not what happened with the Loli in this case, where Andrew flew off the handle and decided this on a whim.
Okay, so let's take Andrew out of this argument, even though he's the core part. No, hang on a sec.
Fine.
We can separate the arguments from the man, okay? The arguments stand independent of who makes them. Come on. So let's assume that I'm the one making these arguments and defending Gab's position here, rather than Andrew Torber. Andrew Torber is having an episode. He needs to sit down and let me be his PR man.
Yeah, I know. He needs to hire you.
Yeah, he really does. Right? He probably can't afford it at the moment though, because he's just when he wants to. I'm happy. No, I'm joking. But so separating the arguments from the man. The reason that I make the point of delineating Lolly as free speech and artistic expression, free expression, is because I think there is a genuine difference there. For example, if Andrew Torber, and this is what I would do if I ran Gab, I would ban all normie memes involving pets. Cats, dogs, all those sort of fucking normie memes, boomer memes, and not even boomer memes, just total 13-year-old normie memes, right? I would ban them. That wouldn't be a free speech issue because they're not political. They're not carrying a political message. So that would be a free expression issue. Why can't I created this amazing meme of a dog who's holding his chin or something? Why can't I post it to your site? Because I'm a terrible censor, would be your answer, right?
I don't really think I agree. And I think
what don't you agree with?
I do think that is a free speech violation, and it's also it also strikes me as in effect immoral or unethical to say, because I understand the argument you're making is just a purely hypothetical, but again, I can just take what you just said and put it right back on Andrew because it's just flippant.
But no, I didn't even get to my reason why.
Okay, fine.
Why I don't want a space that's filled with normie boomer stuff. I want to curate a particular kind of environment.
Fine, but then it creates the secondary issue of now you're going to have people asking, well, why can't I post this, and how in effect, and this is one of the big issues of art, is how do you enforce that?
Well, it's subjective.
Well, that's the big issue. That to me is why with art, it's actually with speech, it's actually, I think honestly that speech is actually a lot easier to categorize than art, because art is purely perception.
Absolutely. Speech has objective value to it. I
mean, somebody could like basically take a sign, go walk on a college campus in their boxer shorts with a sign that says "fuck niggers" on it, and people could go, "Oh my god, it's hate speech. He's a fucking KKK member." Blah blah blah, and the guy could go, "No, this is a costume. I'm Bruce Willis from Die Hard 3." And it's just a costume. So now how do you then categorize how do you categorize it then?
Yeah, it's complicated, and you need to make discretionary choices based on the context that's involved. But the point is, I think you're right. I think it's a lot easier to categorize speech, because the way speech, a sentence is,
because it's specific to the individual.
Yeah, but no. A sentence that someone speaks is meant to be interpreted in a certain way by everyone. Now, whether it is because everyone has their own perception is different, but there is generally an objective meaning to a sentence when someone says it. They want that to be true for everyone who reads it. Like the message. Like if I said, the sky is blue, then everyone who reads that will know exactly what I mean, and will undoubtedly be able to verify it for themselves, right? Like there is an objective quality to speech. That's the point of it. Otherwise, if there wasn't, and everyone was just making up their own fucking definitions for words every time someone spoke,
sure. I mean,
we wouldn't have conversations.
The issue is with speech, though, that there is such there is such an issue with how people interpret even what is said, and the difference between something in context and something out of context. The issue with speech to me is so limited in terms of what could actually be reasonably prosecuted that isn't just draconian, like moral policing, societal policing.
I agree. But this is the thing, though. The point is, I don't think the art, as you say, it's subjective. I don't think art is the same as speech. I genuinely don't. And I'm not saying that we should censor art either. I'm not saying that any platform should do this. But if for some reason I created a social network and I wanted to keep boomer memes off it of dogs and cats, then, I mean, that would be me curating the space. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm a platform. I would definitely say I'm a publisher at that point, because I'm the one making
I don't know. That would be a bad thing to do legally, because holy shit.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just being logically consistent, right? So whether this is wise or not is a completely different question, but it would still be logically consistent to call myself a publisher and then curate the content and the quality and the style and substance of the content. That would be fine, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. The issue with speech is that and with the issue with expression, I don't really want to concede the idea, and I can see there's people in the chat that also do not concede the issue of expression not being covered under free speech, and I don't agree either.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be covered under the concept of freedom of expression. I think free speech really is just a shorthand way of saying that. I think that because freedom of expression is a longer, chunkier thing to say.
Sure, but
speech is easy.
My point is, though, with the issue of even with your example of the enforcement of a boomer meme ban, is that the second you do that, the second you implement that, you instantly create a bureaucracy to police that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And so what it's going to be is not, hey, Sargon, every other second, hey, look at this meme, hey, look at this meme, judge for yourself. In which case, that is nothing more than an authoritarian policy of what Sargon decrees is a boomer meme. Yeah. But it isn't going to be basically disseminated down to having a staff of censors who basically have to make up on their own right, like what is a boomer meme and what isn't.
That's exactly what we have now, isn't it?
I mean, in effect, in movies,
Facebook have them all. You know,
sure,
they've got
sure.
like 10,000 people doing. These are things you already have to do because the way things are. But I mean, I'm not saying I would do this, but I'm just giving hypothetical. Let's construct a logical.
I understand, but my point in response is that it's just there. Like the argument in favor of that system, to me, makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't make any like I literally can't understand the argument in favor of that. I think that's where you and I are even having issues here. Like I can't understand even.
I can explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
Because like I said, right, this isn't really my argument.
No, I understand that. I understand.
Well, I'm saying this to like people in the chat just in case people misinterpret. Like I'm not in favor of banning this. I don't like it, but I don't want it banned and I don't want it criminalized. But I'm not in favor of it. I'm happy for people to go to whatever corners of the internet they want, and I won't follow people who share that sort of stuff and stuff like this. You know, it's not my business. But I think the people who want it banned, their argument would be one of the sort of moral tastes of conservatives, where it's talking about the texture of the social fabric, which is something that liberals actually talk about very poorly. And I think that in many ways we lose a lot of the argument to the people who are prepared to talk about that.
Well, my issue is, and here's my response to that, is the creation that conservatives to what you're speaking to the social fabric, to the average person, to the estimate of the average person. They created in the United States the Miller Standard, which is the obscenity test. It's basically the idea that there is free speech, but there is expression that is obscene, such as pornography.
Legal, isn't it? This is illegal.
Well, it is legal, but it is also a philosophical argument.
Okay.
It is an argument to say that there are things that exist that are degenerate in effect and should not be in society. We should not we should not allow them to exist or permeate in society. And this is something like the government used to really police with cops on the beat, arresting people for pornography, like literally arresting them. Like, oh, you got some pornography stowed away in this garage, you're under arrest. And they used to get jailed and imprisoned for that. And it was based on that standard, based on that not just lawful standard and that creation of a legal standard in terms of Supreme Court precedents, but also a philosophical argument for basically constraining culture to the good, to the moral, and excluding the degenerate or the immoral to their degree. But the issue is there is no enforceable standard of the Miller test. It does not exist.
It's got to be subjective.
It is entirely. It's based on basically, we're going to take this piece of degenerate art, we're going to haul you into a courtroom and have some people look at it, and they get to decide whether you hang or not.
The question is, are we not allowing any kind of subjective standard?
Well, my position is that there is no moral argument for censorship of art. It's it's okay. Then ask again.
The question is it never appropriate to use a subjective standard?
It depends. It depends.
Sometimes it is.
It is, but it should never be in the position. It should only be in the position of opinion. Your personal opinion.
Okay, but and so if we agree with the conservatives that there is such a thing as a social fabric, do we agree on that?
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Yeah. Then should we have a subjective standard for the social fabric, which is naturally subjective in and of itself?
No, because there are objective elements to what should be protected in society.
I didn't say there shouldn't. There definitely should be objective things that should objectively be protected, and we do this via the law. But we're not talking about the law. Now we're talking about the social fabric to which we all contribute and subjectively experience. Now, what do we think of it, you know?
I mean,
See, now the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it's easy to take the hardline zealot case, right? And obviously, and it's a lot of fun a lot of the time because you're being transgressive, and you know you are, and that's half the fun, I'm sure, right? So the reason I bring this up is because it becomes very easy to like just scream taxation is theft over and over, and eventually come to believe it. But if you think about it, like the position that like that's the zealot's position, and it doesn't map to reality because back in reality, instead of the world of what would be good, Andrew Torbert is getting gang fucked by the entire media establishment and being utterly tied to a mass murder of Jews in a synagogue.
well, that's ultimately, I think, irrespective of the social fabric. I think that is in fact a conspiracy against Gab.
Yeah,
I think that's different.
No, but it relies on the social fabric to work.
No, it doesn't. All it requires is people with the motivation to do it and with the connections to pull the trigger. That's all it requires.
No. Yeah, but that's the conspiracy. But the effect that it has is dependent on the social fabric being one of people having a negative effect of people who do mass murders against Jews. If people cheered, they wouldn't publicize it. Like if this was done in Saudi Arabia,
but you would be right if this was something that was pulled to the public. This wasn't. This was a behind closed doors conspiracy.
Yeah, but what I mean is, once they publish their articles, then it is once the articles exist, then it depends on the people, the social fabric, the society itself, to give a shit.
I disagree.
If you did this in Palestine, people would cheer.
Right, but these companies are not based in Palestine. These companies are based in Silicon Valley.
I know, but that's because the social fabric is subjective to each culture it's produced from.
That's fine, but like I said, I don't really think this has to do with the social fabric. I really do think that this has to do with conspiracy.
No, there is a conspiracy, absolutely a conspiracy, but the conspiracy is predicated on the knowledge that if people come to think of Gab as having a role in an anti-Semitic mass shooting, they will think negatively of Gab. And that is the effect of the social fabric. That's the effect they want.
But those people don't have the power to shut it down. It's the people in society.
Oh no, but it's based on public perception, right?
No, it's not. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
It is. Listen, let me explain. Right, the way this works is if the public didn't care about it, they wouldn't bother trying it because what they want is to generate outrage against whoever the web host of Gab is. That Stripe, PayPal, all these. What they want is to create an outrage against these companies so they shut Gab down, which is exactly what they did.
I think that, in my view, what this is I forget the name of whatever this study was, but Tim Pool's been screaming about it for days. Says that 8% of the United States are progressive activists. Yeah, so they're a fringe group. Yeah, we're talking about these people.
No, we're not. We're talking.
Yeah, we are.
No, we're not. I'm talking about the 92% who are not progressive activists, but are also anti-mass, anti-Semitic shootings.
But what I'm telling to you is that the people at these corporations, Stripe, PayPal, the rest, are not. They are not, in fact, your average day morons walking the street. These are people that are ultimately sympathetic to progressive bullshit. And that is why they pulled the trigger.
I'm actually not that sure about that. I think that there are going to be a lot of people at the top. Hang on. There are going to be a lot of people at the top of these companies who are actually not that sympathetic to the progressives, especially the way they act. But because of what the public perception will be when they drum up their media shitstorm, they know that it's just going to be easier for them to go, yeah, okay, progressive activists, we'll do what you want to save us the kerfuffle of being tied to a bunch of Nazis and then potentially poisoning the public against us. Because I think that's ultimately what they're genuinely worried about, not really what the progressive activists want.
I'll concede that they are relying somewhat on public perception and the idea of a meltdown, because I think that the people in the companies ultimately know that if they don't concede that this activist conspiracy group, like I forget what the name of it, like the platform Hate, like that is a legit, like, yeah. I don't want to say terror cell because I think that
it's a social terror cell.
Exactly, it's a social terror cell where it basically it exists to, in effect, it is. I mean, they have the mindset of terrorists.
Yeah,
They are.
Can I just address a super chat quickly? Willem says it's not the public they're appealing to; it's the advertisers and the perception the advertisers have of what they think the public will want. Well, yeah, but that's what I mean by that. That's what I mean by saying, appealing to public perception is what the advertisers believe the public think. Because if the public were to think that these things are actually connected, then the advertisers and the services themselves are going to lose business, because nobody's actually going to do business with someone who is actually in support of an anti-Semitic conspiracy or shooting or whatever. This is what they're trying to avoid, and this is what the progressives are threatening them with. This kind of public shitstorm. We'll say, look, we're connected to Nazis, and everyone go, Gab, Stripe, PayPal, how could you? And that's what they're afraid of.
Well, here's my argument against that. I ultimately think that the effect that progressives currently have on our society is so the effect that it has is so much larger than the group that actually subscribes to that to those ideas, that I think that I view it as in many ways artificial.
Oh, I definitely can see that. I mean, it is artificially concocted. I mean, we can see that with the story about Gab. Gab has no link to this anti-Semitic conspiracy, anti-Semitic shooting, apart from the link any greater than the people who rented him a house. Gab's a platform. It's not right.
I wonder sometimes, in what I always think about, and I got this idea from a movie. God, what is it? It's that famous French zealot female, Joan of Arc. Yeah, Joan of Arc. It's a movie, Joan of Arc. And there's a character in the movie that she interacts with called the Conscience. Mm-hmm. And he is trying to basically put doubt in her mind to her being divine. Mm-hmm. And she finds a sword in a field at one point in the movie. And she sees that as God delivering her a sword to basically go on crusade, in effect.
Well, it's a war against the English.
Right. But it was like a holy war. From her view, anyways, as far as I understand. Yeah, so the Conscience basically explains to her the multiple ways that the sword could have found its way in the field outside of God, and basically says, like, out of all the ways that you thought that the sword could have landed in the fields, why do you assume God? But the thing that I took away from that scene that I found the most impactful on my part was the inexplicable. The thing that you can't really explain, the thing that no one really predicts, the thing that no one really sees, but could just happen. And in relation to progressives, I think that at some point it is possible that something happens or someone comes along, like another Trump, but an even more impactful Trump, an even more well-spoken Trump, an even more charismatic Trump. Someone comes out of the ether, out of the blue, and this whole progressive movement just comes crashing down.
I hope that happens.
But so do I.
Getting back to the point about Gab, right? So there are lots of arguments for Gab that are based in being aware of the context in which Gab exists, right? And I think that we've already established that the only way you can decide that the context in which Gab doesn't matter, is if you're taking the zealot's position. And I mean, if you want to hold fast to the zealot's position, you can say, well, that's what I'm going to do. But at least you can acknowledge that that's a zealot's position and not reasonable by definition.
Right? My position on Gab is that you can't divorce Andrew Torba from his platform. And in effect, he is one of the people that the conspiracy is what killed him, but he did himself no favors into where he is now.
Sure, and this is what I'm kind of angry about. Like I'm not angry, but I'm upset about, because like this lolly thing that I'm seeing people post about. This is really not the time, I think, is the best way to put it.
Well, I don't think that people really buy into the idea that this is not the time to do that. Like, I can understand that there is the obvious priority of Gab itself, but the issue is, and I've already said this publicly, like I understand in principle what is happening here and why it's wrong, and the idea of like this really did start, I think, with so you may have said it the other day, or somebody said it the other day, with Andrew Anglin, that it ultimately started with him, with this whole idea of crucifying people's websites and taking them down and destroying them ultimately, not just saying, oh, Andrew Anglin's a bad guy and I don't like him, but literally I'm going to go after his business in a way that he can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that is what's happened to Gab.
yeah. And what I mean is, like, taking the Zealot's position on this is really ineffectual.
Well, that's fine, but I don't think that that's going to persuade people to step back from the position they've taken and staked out. And I don't think that it's motivated me as well, because I do think that this is ultimately a weakness on our side. And I said as much, and I wasn't making a meme about that. I think that this is an area in which that the liberalists or the liberals, or however you want to put it, we are weak on, because I think that this emotional reaction, not necessarily that you had, but Dank had, that to me shows a clear sign of weakness, where again, it's just so flippant. In the case of Andrew, it's just free speech, free speech, free speech, free speech. Boom, ban something.
Yeah,
and the thing is, I would never do that.
I agree, and I didn't either. You know,
no, and I'm not putting that onus on you at all. And I've already said multiple times that you are not the guilty party here in this way.
I know, and this is why I'm doing this, to be honest, because I am annoyed to see them just be flippant and dismissive, because these are things that there are genuine arguments and concerns about. You know, it's not that this is an unreasonable thing to be concerned about, but it's also, if we can concede that it's not unreasonable to be concerned about this, I think we have to concede that it is also reasonable to consider why it might actually be necessary to do.
Sure. But in the case of Gab, to be specific about them, like overall, I believe you're correct that this is something worthy of debate. But in terms of Gab specifically, they avoided this by introducing the not safe for work tag. They completely solved the issue already. The compromise was already made. So the issue of banning Loli was nothing more than Andrew Torba going off. And that to me is the big thing. Like I said, that I recognize, like, I don't care if somebody is an asshole in terms of their own personal personality. I'm sure people could describe me as an asshole, and that would be fine. But the issue is, what I'm not going to do at any given notice is suddenly just flip and start declaring that out of fiat, I'm going to ban something very specific that is artistic based on nothing more than I don't like it. And I had people that know me, know my channel. I did not ask for this. They reached out on my behalf, asked Andrew, like, this is a big deal. Like, you don't understand what you're doing by doing what you're doing. Will you debate Louis on this? Will you just talk to him? And he flat out just said no and, like, blocked people for it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're asking him to do something sinful.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
No, it's not. That's the point. To him, it's not fine. It'd be like me asking you to censor someone.
Well, the thing is that it's just like, well, I guess I'm glad that he's not in the state.
It was in the state?
Yeah, I'm glad he's not in power. I'm glad he's not in government.
Oh, well, really? I think I think that we'd have much freer speech.
Well, how do I know? It's just going to be based on what he finds to be sinful.
Yeah.
Well, that could be fucking anything.
Yeah, sure, it could be. But the people who are already dictating what is and isn't sinful have got way more constrictive like standards than Andrew.
That we know of.
Yeah, but they do. I mean, we can point to them.
Sure.
And we can say, look, they're deplatforming these people because they're right wingers in many cases.
Like I said, the thing is that I've interacted with people that are certainly more conservative than I am. Well, the thing is this: I've interacted with conservatives that follow my channel that flat out say to me that they find Lolicon to be legitimately degenerate and they don't like it. And they flat out said that they think Andrew's gone off the deep end on this, and they are also conservatives. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I'm a liberal, and I think this, but I can. What I'm saying is, okay, in principle, I agree. Now, we need to look at what's really happening rather than just saying what would be the best case scenario. And what's really happening is like a million miles away from the best case scenario. It's as far away from the best case scenario as it possibly could be. So let's not worry about the best case scenario. Let's worry about not being quite as bad as it is.
Sure. Well, the issue in terms of like solving the Gab issue or solving the social terrorist issue, like that is something that, in effect, what it requires is someone like Andrew or someone that is one of us or someone like us being in a boardroom to basically counteract these people. And unless that happens, then every single one of these corporations are going to fall for it. There's nothing that we can do.
Well, there are other things we can do. It just requires...
Yeah, literally create our own corporations. That is
not just that. The public opinion matters to these people. It's admittedly a much weaker factor than having activists with them.
It matters specifically to the corporations. It does not matter whatsoever to the social terrorists.
I agree. Yeah, obviously. But that's the point. I'm talking about the corporations, right? We want them to do what we want, and they want them to do what they want. And the question is, who is more persuasive? Now, when there are people saying, well, I'm glad Gab got censored because they censored Lolly, that's us losing that fight every time.
Well, that is them being, I will concede that is them being, I don't know if I want to say irrational, but just unnecessarily harsh or vindictive. Yeah. To the point of maybe irrationality.
I think by definition it's irrational because we don't even have Gab now. So the fact that you're still arguing this point is really moot.
Well, the thing is that it isn't. The thing is that it is, in my opinion, it is separate. There is the issue of Gab and the issue of Gab and Loli, and then there's the issue of, is Loli free speech? Is this something that the state should be enforcing against or not?
Well, no, but Gab isn't the state. So
well, again, that's why it's separate.
Yeah, but again, I don't think it's free speech. I think it's free expression. I think the expression is subjective because it's art.
Well, the issue is then it's just a standard of should the state be acting against it or not? And that's the question. Well, that's the issue. It's not necessarily on you that I got the problem. It's Dank who's been kind of a little
okay. But then you've got to, I mean, if we are forced to curate a platform, and we are forced by law to curate social media platforms, not we, but like the people who own social media platforms, right? They're forced to curate them by law, right? Is it irrational to say that Andrew Torba shouldn't want sexualized pictures of children, even if they're just drawn by hand, if he's trying to compete with Silicon Valley? Is it irrational to say he doesn't want that?
It's not irrational, but it's just the thing is this.
It's the way you did it, isn't it?
No, it's not just that. That is true, but the thing is that I don't go around every day with a fucking make speech free again hat. I don't go around with a make speech, I'm a free speech absolutist shirt on. Like I don't make my bread and butter and make my company based on the foundation of I am a free speech absolutist, and then on a whim throw all of that shit in the garbage.
Well, hang on a second. Like, what political ideas has he censored?
Well, see, now you're being overly specific.
Is it overly specific?
Yes.
I mean, there's probably quite a lot of artwork that he might actually suggest would be.
And so, if you're asking, is there any single Jew-hating retard on the internet that he has censored? No, he has not censored any of them. Has he on a whim decided to ban a specific art form, and any form of it that he decides is it? Yes, he did decide that.
But yeah, okay. Yeah.
So my point is
but that's not a violation of someone's free speech, is it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't think so. I think there's a violation of their freedom for artistic expression.
No, I think that it is part and parcel of free speech. I don't think there's a division between the two.
Well, then you have to be saying that each artistic interpretation has a political message.
No, because I don't think that the basis of free speech is just on political speech.
What else would it be for? Like
mere expression, mere speech. That is it.
Well, yeah, I agree that freedom of expression is something different.
Do you think that yelling? Do you think that telling somebody that you're going to beat them up in front of their face or order a crowd to beat them up, do you think that is political? Or always political?
It doesn't have to always be political, but I mean, there's always going to be a reason.
No, but it's always unlawful, isn't it?
Sure.
Well, there you go. Then is it political? Why isn't it political terrorism then? If I'm using violence against another person,
because it's not being done in the service of a political cause.
Well, then there you go. Then why can't I say what I'm currently saying and it's covered by the First Amendment or covered by the philosophical basis of free speech? It's not political.
Because that's the way the American Constitution works.
It doesn't specify political speech as that being the basis of free speech. It's merely expression.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's expression, not free speech.
Because if you
But look. Okay, so what I'm saying is, it's not illegitimate for a platform to curate the space that it has, but it
no,
has
because
to,
it's a private company. It can in effect do whatever the fuck it wants, so long as it doesn't violate the law.
Yeah, but what I mean is, you have to then declare yourself to be a publisher, in my opinion. You're not just a neutral platform. You are a publisher once you start curating, but the law requires you to curate. So they're not platforms; they're publishers. They're all publishers, and I think we should refer to them as such, because calling them platforms, like for example, like like I don't know.
Well, it isn't. By the way, I can't stand the whole platform / publisher thing, because the thing I can't stand is that there is a very specific legal distinction in terms of liability between the two. And that is why every one of these platforms, which that's how they are legally defined as, they never want to be regarded as publishers. And the reason is that if I go on and say, Carl Benjamin is a child rapist, you can then sue Twitter, and say it on Twitter or on here. You can then sue Google for libel, for defamation.
But they want to have their cake and eat it too. They
exactly,
like a publisher, and I agree. I mean, like, if to be consistent, I think Gab should be like, we're a publisher. But the point is, they can still be a free speech publisher and not permit lolly.
In that case, I'll agree. I'll agree.
Yeah,
they can be a publisher and do whatever the fuck they want.
But they can't just be an open platform. But then I don't think legally they can either, really. I think that everyone is forced to curate these days.
No, legally they can in fact be a platform, to my best understanding of the law. They can in fact do it. But what it requires is basically like the thing is that when you're small enough, the government doesn't care. But once you get big enough, then the government then starts to care. And it then becomes an issue of the big issue that the government will then come to you and say that there is content on your platform they do not like, or that they want censored for whatever specific reasons. It's like the ISIS videos, or like, let's just take the ISIS. Let's just use this for example. You give me Gab. I now am in control of Gab. The government comes to me and says, we want you to take down those ISIS videos. My answer is going to be no. You know why?
Because it was censorship of free speech.
Well, that's true, but also because, okay, am I going to ban the JFK videos next? No, we're not going to do that, because that's on that's televised on cable. Why don't they have to censor that? It's political violence. It's terrorism. It's an assassination. So why do we have to censor the ISIS videos? It's the exact same content.
Well, I agree. I'm not saying we should censor.
Well, that's the issue. That's my distinction between, you said that they all have to be platforms. No, or they all have to be publishers. No, they can in effect be platforms, but they choose not to be.
Well, I don't know, because and again, this is your example is very US specific, but these platforms are not just operating in the US.
Well, what I would do is if I was operating in Europe, I would have my servers based in the United States.
Yeah, but the law would still require anyone accessing from Europe would have to be beholden to special rules.
You could also headquarters your corporation in the United States, technically, because there's companies that do that.
The European Union will just ban your website from the EU, like China.
Well, that begs the issue of, what do you do then in the market? Because
the EU is a giant. It's a proto-fascist entity, mate.
Right. Well, the thing is that what would serve. The thing is, then it becomes a question of money versus a question of morality, in my opinion.
No, we're not talking in principle anymore, right? We agree that in principle there's no one harmed. It's not something that should be made legal. Right? Well, hang on. I have my own subjective moral values on this. I agree that things that are not don't produce a victim shouldn't be illegal, even if I find them immoral. But this isn't me endorsing whatever this is. This is me saying, well, it's gross, but it shouldn't be policed. The difference is that's a very American standard. The European standard, as Google, they want to transition to the European model of curated spaces. Unfortunately, we're already there.
Well, it's really the Chinese model, if you ask me.
Well, I agree, but we're already there. The point is, and we have to be cognizant of this reality.
Well, I think honestly, what's required in the context of Europe is honestly someone that dies in prison, that becomes a martyr, because you guys, unfortunately, are living in a situation where it's so bleak that it does what, like, if I was in the position of Gab, I would have my platform freely accessible in Europe, and if they didn't like that, I would say, okay, extradite me. I would say that, and I would go to jail for it. I would go to jail for that.
You don't understand. They will just censor you.
Well, then then that's what they choose to do. Then they don't have access to the platform.
Yeah, that's what they'll do. And if you're Gab and you want to grow your platform as a competitor to Twitter, you're probably going to have to accept that there are going to be certain sacrifices you've got to make. And again, I know this wasn't Andrew Torba's argument, but this would be my argument, because if you want to create a space that is going to be something that draws in the normies, having a lot of lolly on it, especially if it's a small platform and it's spammed a lot, man, I don't think that's going to bring people.
I think that people are going to be more offended if you give me a room full of people and I'll show them a picture of Loli and then read them out as it would be spoken by an anti-Semite, some of the shit I've seen on Gab, and we'll see who's actually who's offended by what more. We'll see.
I think the pedophilia will be more offensive.
No, we'll see.
Oh yeah, I think it will, man. This is what I mean. Like, I think any person who is a parent looks at this lolly stuff and finds it vile, absolutely vile. And a lot of people are parents, man. And I think a lot of people would rather there be anti-Semites saying things on the internet than people passing around pictures of sexualized children, even if they're not real. You breaking through that barrier for most people is not going to happen, in my opinion. And I think it would be. I mean, if Gab hadn't survived this,
if they were sitting in a room with other people where they had to front, yes, then it would be impossible.
Well, but even one-on-one, I think.
I think one-on-one the argument can be made.
Okay, but the thing is, you can't make the argument one-on-one. And if not even Andrew Torba, if just get like a brand new startup is like, right, we're going to compete with Twitter, we're going to do this properly. We are going to be free speech, but there are going to be certain sort of public morality.
Well, the issue is that in the current way that we're doing things, under the standard of having to make concessions, having to do this.
Well, I mean, think about like gore, sort of like violence, like the beheading stuff and torturing animals and stuff like that. Are you going to say that it's a violation of free speech to remove that kind of shit from a platform?
I'm going to say it's a Sisyphean task that it's eventually going to have you on par with the Chinese, because that is where every...
Your answer is no, then?
Yes.
No. Yeah, so your answer is no. It's not wrong for them to remove that.
No answer. My answer is that it will destroy them if they remove it.
Well, you think that's a danger they should be aware of, obviously.
No, it's an inevitability. Every single one of these companies, as they continue to curate their platform, has only gotten worse. Every single one. And that includes Gab. It won't just stop there. The minute you make the concession to start banning shit on a whim, you will never stop. And eventually, you'll be just like what... well, that's the thing with all these corporations. They're all chasing after Chinese money. That's the whole... that's the whole reason... Apple's now in China. It's the whole reason why Google's now in China.
But either way, let's assume that is an inevitable conclusion. That could be 10 years off in the future.
Yeah.
So it could be 20 years off in the future. It could be a long time, or
I don't think it's going to be a long time. I think things are moving pretty quick.
Saying it will be, but like in the hypothetical, that's the case. Let's just assume that eventually you will destroy your own platform. But the thing is, you do have to do this anyway. And I mean, would you say it's a violation of free speech to remove this sort of gore pictures and stuff? Or do you think it would be a normal...
Yes.
You think it would?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Because I want to see JFK's head get blown off.
Okay, but do you think normies are going to use a platform like that?
Yes.
I don't. I think they're going to... If a normal person goes onto Gab and it's nothing but people getting bits of them chopped off, I don't think they're going to sign up on that site.
Well, it's not like... I think you're arguing the difference between someone seeing something they're offended by and it being actively promoted by the platform.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, like, if you go...
Here's my position. Here's my position. If a normie goes onto Gab and sees JFK's as a boomer, seeing JFK's getting his head getting blown off, sees that it's so offensive they turn it off. Good, fuck them. They're weak.
Yeah, okay, but I'm a businessman.
I guarantee you that you will make more money by not catering. Well, this is the whole thing.
I think this is just the argument from zealotry, though.
No, this is my position is, if we didn't live in a world where you had you know, what was called? I call it the Bay Area moral majority, but it's basically vegan ISIS. That's what they call them. Vegan ISIS. If it weren't for vegan ISIS, this wouldn't even be a question. But the issue is that everything is based around the issue of what can we do that they won't kill. Yeah. Because they have so much institutional power and they are within everything. They have rotted everything out. And the thing is that, like, the question is, do we try to just somehow change it from the outside? Like, say universities, for example. Do we try to argue with other professors to see if we can somehow remedy this issue? Or do we Bolsonaro it, where we literally have military police raiding the academy?
Well, I'm more than happy to follow the Orban model and just ban it. But that's because I'm a giant censor.
Well, no, the issue is that what you're, because that's the difference. This is the big difference between something that is, this is the big difference is you can't allow for this ideology to just take root in academia or in the institutions, because it will literally kill. It is a total. It's
right, okay, right. So right. Use that argument against Lolly with a startup platform.
There is no effect to it.
Of course there is.
No, there isn't.
I am absolutely certain that you've been an edgelord on the internet for so long, you've lost the perspective of a normie.
No, because I still see memes about Jews and about 9/11 and other things as offensive.
Yeah, no, but like, I think that you've become desensitized in many ways.
I don't. I mean, sure, that's a truism. Like, what do you want me to say?
But this is the thing. Like, just think about like people in an office who are just working normies day by day, and you bring up like a platform and it's got nothing but gore on it. You're like, hey, you should create a.
Well, that's never
gonna do.
That's a red herring.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, listen, right. What I'm saying is, if you're trying to grow your platform and you have certain things on, then I don't think you will grow, because people's mores, they will just say,
why did people grow?
Hang on. Now you can make the same argument about Nazi shit on Gab, but Gab's premise was that it was a free speech platform for any political opinion, and so that's a specialist subject. You're not going to get all the normies, but you're going to get a bunch of them who are concerned about free speech and may even want to argue with the Nazis, blah 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 blah, right? But when you start introducing things like ultra gore or lolly stuff and stuff like this, then when you start permitting these things, then you start building up a different sort of social fabric that I think a lot of people just on the front of what these things are going to be. That's a red line for them.
I mean, by that standard, do you think that Gab hasn't gone far enough in their censorship?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not like. I mean, I don't. I'm just using these as hypotheticals. So
no, but by that hypothetical, Gab hasn't gone far enough in order to cater to the normies. My whole position is I don't think that standard is actually real. I think that it could be as edgy as, look at fucking World Star. How edgy is that? It's nothing but fights and violence, and that has millions of fucking viewers.
That's true.
So I don't agree with you. Like, this to me is the whole concept of.
Well, hang on. I think it's important to distinguish who's watching these things. The people watching World Star are not in their mid-30s home-owning careerists, aren't they?
No, the point is that I think you basically have a different concept of what platform you would want to create, like who the target audience would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think,
I don't think that, honestly, that, because the thing is with YouTube never set out with, we have this specific target, like men. We want to target men, we want to target women or whatever. That's not how they set out. And the thing is that most of the people, this is true, and Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time, the overwhelming majority of users of YouTube are men. And who does YouTube constantly suck the dick of in their advertising? Women. Yeah. They're desperate for more women to join this god-awful websites. And it's not going to fucking happen. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it will happen naturally. It won't happen because of any social engineering. Doesn't matter what they censor, what they do. It's just women aren't interested.
Yeah, I agree. But
what do you want to do?
I think there are certain reasonable levels of entry that you can establish, and I think not having pictures of hacked up bodies all over the front page of your website,
well, then
it's a good start,
I'll
right?
tell you what. I'll compromise with you. We'll have the what would be the word I would come up with? We'll have the Untermenschen censor option, so that we can have a not safe for work tag, and those photos will be tagged with it, and that'll be a rule. And if you are in Untermenschen, you can turn that off, so you don't have to view the icky content. Because Tumblr has that, by the way. They have tons of fucking porn on Twitter or on Twitter, yeah, but on Tumblr, and they have that not safe for work option. And so is YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Tumblr's already huge though, and YouTube's really censorious.
Right, but did Tumblr start as like a super safe fucking hug box? No, it became that.
I agree, but Tumblr also didn't get deplatformed.
It's because the SJWs are already there, and they are. The thing is about Tumblr is they actually do censor and curate, but the thing is that they already know that they make so much money, and so much of what they do is based also on like fan fiction and porn and all that sort of shit, that they don't ban it for that reason, that they're making them money. And so the issue with Tumblr, as far as I understand their corporate leadership, they are in fact posers, progressives. They're posers.
Okay, well, getting back to let's conclude then, because we keep getting off topic, I think. So I am arguing that there's no need to be autistic about the free speech thing with Gab. I think it is the argument of the zealots.
Well, it's redundant now.
Yeah, but I don't think that we're in any position to make arguments from such a position. They're essentially utopian arguments.
Not really, no.
I think they are.
I don't think so.
Well, go post
if the FCC disappeared tomorrow, what would be the consequence of that?
I don't know, but is it going to disappear?
Nothing. Do you think that NBC is going to start airing porn?
Why do you think they won't?
Because that will lose them viewers.
Why will the normies be turned off by it?
Yes. So
does it actually matter what the normies think?
No. If you're NBC and you already have an established market, yes.
But if you want to build an established
market, do you think if you're Spike TV, or if you're assuming it still exists, or some other like Guy network, do you think that including porn or borderline porn would be better or worse for that?
Again, it depends what demographic you're targeting.
Exactly.
You're always going to remain fringe when you serve fringe interests. But I mean, it's okay to serve fringe interests.
But you can make a lot of fucking money from serving fringe interests. Believe me,
you can. I'm not arguing against it. But I don't think that was what Gab was aiming for, really. I mean, kind of what they got, whether they liked it or not. But
no,
my point though is just, I think we should basically stop the autistic crusade against Gab. I know it feels good to have an enemy.
I'm not doing anything against Gab.
Oh, come on, you all are, you know. But my point is, Andrew Torb was a complete prick, and
right.
I agree that what you like shouldn't be illegal, but I think you have to accept that there are people, and I think you do accept that there are people who legitimately and for legitimate reasons find it to be subjectively and emotionally vile.
Sure, but don't
but if that's
no. You can say that it's immoral and everything else, and this is the thing. I have had conservatives that follow my channel who I know to be conservatives who said as much that they find it to be vile, etc., etc. They morally condemn it. The thing is that they still stand by the fact that it is free speech, that it should not be banned, and that the thing is this is the whole thing. This is something that my conservative viewers don't do. This is something that This is something I don't do. I don't run around bragging incessantly, advertising my entire being around the fact that I'm a free speech absolutist. I don't fucking do that.
Okay, but like I said, I don't consider art to be necessarily free speech. I think it's free expression. I think there is a distinction there.
I think it's a distinction without a difference.
I don't think it is. And I think it matters, and especially in the case of art, because like you said, art is subjective.
It is.
Exactly. It doesn't have an objective quality to it.
No, it is based... No, it doesn't.
Of course it does.
Only certain kinds of speech actually have any kind of objective...
Even every piece of speech. The problem is every word has got a definition that we recognize objectively, and the problem is our failures to understand one another's...
Speech is subjective, period. Speech is subjective.
Everything a human does is subjective, but the point of language...
No, not necessarily.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't. There is objective things that people do.
No, I mean perception socially. In the social
Sure,
realm,
yes.
that's what I'm talking about. Like everything that we do is subjective, right? So but language is meant to be objective.
Not
that's the point.
Not everything we do is subjective.
No, I didn't say that. And I'm actually making the point that language is meant to have an objective, like, purpose. When you write a message, you have an intention behind that message that you want every person reading it to perceive. Now, it's down to you. Yeah, but it's because language isn't just static, and in your own personal failures as an author, and then the interpretation or misinterpretation because of the cultural norms and whatnot of the people reading it, you get definite misinterpretations and wrong definitions. Cultural idioms and things like this that confuse that transmission of that message, but that doesn't mean the attempt wasn't made. And the purpose of language, and the purpose of having dictionaries is that we can understand what the fuck we mean. It can't just be subjective. Well, everyone takes their own meaning from a statement.
The issue is that there are attempts at standardization of speech, of what people mean by what definition. But in effect, it is merely perception based.
Yeah, of course, but that's only because we're fallible humans. I mean, in an ideal world, all speech would be objective, and everyone would objectively understand speech. Ideally, but they can't do that because we're fallible humans, and everyone's perceptions are subjective to their own unique life experiences. And so we've got to like.
If it was objective, people's minds would ultimately be controlled.
But the thing is, you can't say that about art.
You can't say that about either.
You can. There's a specific message. If I say the sky is blue, right, you can't subjectively interpret that to mean I mean the sky is green on the face of it, if it's just a message, a written down message, right? But like, you can't do that with art. I don't know necessarily what you're trying to portray with a particular picture. All I can do is pick out things that I find relevant. There's no prior definition that I can appeal to about that piece of art, unless I've read some fucking art critic giving me whatever they believe to be the backstory of it. I can't look it up in a dictionary and find out what that art is supposed to mean.
I'm sure, like, I can understand the distinction that you're attempting to make, but I don't think that on that basis that distinguishes the difference between art and speech is somehow separate. I don't agree.
I think it absolutely is. And I think the reason we can distinguish between them just using the language we have is because there is a difference, and they come under the category of expression. And I believe that we should have free expression, but I also agree that some things have to be restricted because we don't live in a perfect world, and there is a time and place for everything. And I really think that literally in the process of Gab being scrubbed from the internet by a conspiracy of SJWs, right? This is the thing that really annoys me. The lolly people are not being helpful. At all. No, they're not being
fine. But the question is then, what are they supposed to do in effect to get rid of that conspiracy? No, I don't agree. I don't agree.
Yeah, but you're not being helpful. So anything you can do now is counterproductive, isn't it?
No, it isn't. It's
okay. What are you doing?
No, it's again. It's raising a question. Like I already said, there's Gab. There's Gab and Lolly, and then there is Lolly.
Yes, now the time. Sitting there going, well, Gab was never for free speech, so it's good that they're censored. Is now the time for
that? That's someone being emotional.
Yeah, but there are loads of people being emotional, and what I'm here trying to do is talk them down from that ledge, right? Stop being emotional. I know this is something
what it requires
transgressive, and I agree that no one's being hurt.
What it requires,
nobody has to like this.
Well,
right?
here's what you're arguing. In effect, is I'm trying to think of a good.
There's a shit show going on, and talking about your ideal world is not helpful. That's my argument.
It's in effect. I'm trying to think of like a good way to describe it because I know that I can. It's people being on, because the thing is, a lot of these people were users of Gab, and as I was as well. I'm trying to think of a good analogy of what it would be. You have everyone on a plane. I like to go back to plane analogies. Everyone's on a plane.
There you go.
And Andrew is the pilot, and he's the only pilot of the plane. It's his plane. And there are terrorists aboard that are awaiting. They're waiting to take the plane down, and these are the social terrorists. They're waiting to take the plane down and stab Andrew in the neck.
Yeah.
And rather than be focused on the terrorists on the plane that we all know exist, he's turning to half the people, or let's say 15% of the passengers on his plane, and going, "Hey, all of you are a bunch of fucking degenerates, and if you do anything I don't like, you're gone." And expecting those 15% to not react to that is stupid.
Okay.
I expect them to react to that. And so when the terrorists stab Andrew in the neck and take the plane down, why are you blaming the 15%? They didn't do anything. It was the terrorists.
Okay, but
they're not being helpful. The plane's already down. What do you want?
Yeah, but the plane, it's not already down. This is a plane crash in motion.
No, it is currently down. It's Andrew. What it requires is Andrew having to literally build a new fucking plane and get it back up.
No, I like this. This is effectively the engine's out. Gab still has a presence on the internet, still on Twitter, still on Facebook or whatever.
I mean, as an actual service itself.
And yeah, but they're gonna build a blockchain variant apparently. So they don't need like the server that they need it. You know, the hosting and stuff like this. And so it's not.
The financial part of it's the bigger issue.
Maybe, but okay. Let me address a quick comment that someone's made in the chat, because I think this is the point I'm trying to make, right? So 427 Rbox says it's unhelpful, but we're not going to fight for Gab if they aren't going to fight for us when push comes to shove. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Flip me off, you get the bird. Now I completely appreciate that point of view, right? And honestly, there's a massive part of me that's tempted to do a stream just laughing at the fact that Ralph just got his entire channel tanked. And all of the super chats, I think it'd be so fucking funny if I was a complete dick. But the thing is, it doesn't help anything for me not to support Ralph. You know, it's just me being self-indulgent at that point. And the thing is, if for some reason I wanted to watch the kill stream or go on the kill stream, I don't have that option. And it would just be now I'm laughing at the fact that I've had options cut off from me just because of one thing that I didn't like. Right. So this is the same with Gab. It's like, okay, you couldn't post Lolly on there, fine, but could you post other things? Yes. Was it useful to post other things? Yes, it certainly was. You know, was it useful that Gab existed as a counterweight to Twitter to make them afraid of it? Yes, that's why they got rid of it. You know, and so sitting there going, well, I mean, you know, if they're not going to scratch my account, I'm not going to scratch theirs. If I can't have my thing at the exact way I want it, like the ideal of it, then fuck them completely. And it's like, well, okay, but that's a losing strategy every single time. And so rather than putting pressure on, you know, the people who have deplatformed them and the service providers to go to the government agents and all this sort of stuff, instead you guys are going to do nothing. And so it's just like, except laugh at Andrew Torber and say, fuck you, you were actually against free speech. It's like, fucking hell. So this is my point. It's like, it would just be more useful if we didn't even have this conversation, to be honest.
Well, no, I still think that regardless of the Gab situation, I do think that this is a question worth asking, because again, it begs a certain question. I do think that a lot of this, not necessarily with you specifically, Sargon, although this conversation, I think, in some ways begs a few questions, but in terms of, like I said, with Dank and with Andrew, the real onus that people had on that, and that's the real reason why they're upset by him, even though, yeah, there was an active conspiracy against him, and I'm not celebrating the fact that he got taken down. Other people may be celebrating the fact that he got taken down irrationally so, but the reason why is, like I said, it's the analogy that I gave of being on the plane, and rather than focus on the terrorists on the plane we all know are around, he just whips around and insults people on the plane for no given reason. Because the thing is, he didn't just ban it and then give a clear-headed explanation as to why he had to do it. He gave a dishonest answer for why he did it. And then went on to morally judge every person that was defensive of what he was ultimately deciding. And he did so for days.
Okay, let me address another comment, because these are things that I think they're saying things that you believe but you aren't saying, right? Well, not necessarily you believe, sorry, but these are the people, like, these are the arguments that are being made. I want to separate them from the person who said it, obviously. Gab was an utterly useless piece of hypocritical drivel that got exactly what it deserved. It was never free speech, and neither are you, Sargoy. So
I think that's just a troll comment.
No. There are a lot of comments like this, and it's okay to have these comments. But what I'm saying is, this is the position of the zealot, right? This is undeniably so.
I think that I think to defend that person for a second, I think that the perspective that they're coming from, the fear that that person has is the fear that I ultimately sympathize with, is the sudden and flippant nature of the switch from, because the thing is, when you say I am a free speech absolutist, people take that as it is. They don't think I am a free speech absolutist, but to anyone, and including myself, that comes across as immediately disingenuous.
Yeah, but that is a zealot's position, isn't it?
No, I disagree.
Well, okay, so you think there's never a good reason to compromise on any of this?
On art, no.
Well, there we go. That's the zealot's position.
I already said
you're refusing to compromise. How can you?
No, I am saying that there is no. I find it to be immoral. That is my personal set of morals. Is that I find it immoral. I've already said that, but also that there is no reason. There is no defense given outside of, well, we need to cater to the moral majority. Well, we need to cater to the terrorists.
Yeah, making an argument from the context of the thing.
No, there's a context in which you need to bend the knee to terrorists.
Maybe. I mean, I can't think of one.
No, I fundamentally disagree. I think that this.
I don't know. I mean, like, think about it. Like, if you've got, like, I don't know, if you've got terrorists holding. Hang on, if you've got terrorists holding a bunch of kids hostage, and the terrorists are like, right, get us a plane, and we'll let the hostages go. So you get them the plane, they let the hostages go, and then you shoot the plane down. What was wrong? The terrorists didn't get away. You just got the people out safe by being smart.
Being smart, I don't think, is what's going on here. I don't think that this whole, even including Gab, I don't think any of this was smart. Again, smart would be addressing the terrorists.
I'm not saying Gab are being smart. I'm just saying that there are definitely
no. But give me a situation where, in the long run, censorship of art works out in my favor.
In your favor?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I can't think of one. I'm not
saying
anything.
I'm
definitely on the axis that wants to push away from censorship.
No, but what I'm saying is, in effect, that there is no situation where you are not bending the knee to social terrorists.
Okay, but that's zealots. That's zealotry, isn't it? If there's no position,
no, it isn't.
Dude, you're never going to compromise, right?
On any sense, because the thing is, the thing is with art, and this is why I quoted Andrew Ryan from BioShock 2, is it's a very true statement that the parasite, as he would describe, what it can't regulate, and you can't regulate the subjective. You can't. You ban.
True, you can regulate the subjective.
No, you can't.
Of course you can.
No, you can't.
The regulations you make will be based on subjective standards.
Right, and they will never be actually enforceable. It will just be on a whim. It'll never be something that's concrete.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it'll be based on the relative perception of the people doing the enforcing.
Yes, and that it will never be
an objective standard. I agree.
It will never be fair enforcement. It'll never be just. It'll never be just.
It depends what you believe. I mean, I agree. I don't think it'll be just, but like there are people who think it will be just, and they're the people who are going to be pressing the buttons.
Right, exactly. They're the one holding the gun, so they don't care. Yeah. Well, that's not justice. I mean, no, I don't concede to that. I don't concede to that.
Okay.
If it makes me a zealot that I'm not going to concede to someone that is enforcing standards that they will never actually be justified in enforcing, then I'm a zealot. Then.
Okay.
Well, then then you're arguing in favor of unequal enforcement.
Well, I think that's inevitable. So I would rather.
No, we're not talking about the ideal. We're talking about what is going to be the end. We both recognize as the end. It will be unequal enforcement.
Yes.
That you're putting that in the law.
Yeah, but no.
That is what we're talking about.
No, we're not talking about the law at all. I agree with you that it shouldn't be made legal. So there is no question of law here. What we're talking about is social standards of morality.
I don't think there should be any impetus. I don't think there should be any ability for anyone in a society to be able to take the pen or the paintbrush or whatever else out of the hand of an artist.
Okay.
They should have no capacity to do that.
Gab can't do that.
No, but that was the thing they were willing to do, and I think that's why a lot of people are reacting so negatively. They recognize that. Imagine is this: they were taking the pen out of the hand of an artist as their pen was then taken away from them.
I don't think they were taking the pen out of the hand of an artist.
I do. I think that. I think that's absolutely what they were doing.
Well, I don't agree. I mean, they weren't stopping people from making these things.
No, but they were in effect preventing dissemination of it.
Okay, but would you? But then you would. But this is the thing, isn't it?
Okay. So here's the.
No, hang on. No. This gets to the point. Because this is the thing, right? I really want to be clear with this, because like, if like you aren't. You don't seem to be prepared to compromise on this issue at all, and that's okay. I mean, in many ways, that's admirable. Like, not for the right reasons, but like, it can be admirable to never compromise on something that is a truly held conviction. But that is what a zealot does. That's what I'm talking about when you say zealot. So it's a thing that you believe that can't be challenged, and you're not prepared to compromise on, right?
Should I compromise on anti-Semitic speech?
Yes. So
Why?
should the left. Because life is full of compromises. You can't live your ideals perfectly in the real world. And you live in the real world, so you've got to be realistic. Everyone has to compromise something.
Realism isn't a point of principle.
Exactly. Realism is not a point of principle unless it kind of is if you want it to be. If my primary principle is that
it's always ends driven. Realism is always ends driven. It's never.
No, you've also got to begin in the real world. You can't end in the real world. You've got to begin there.
Right, but the only area in which that realism makes any kind of the only way that there's a moral defense of realism is through a utilitarian point of view. That's the only way it's justifiable.
No, not at all. I think it's utterly unjustified. I mean, the reason socialism is morally abhorrent is because it doesn't take into account the consequences of its actions. The ends don't justify the means.
Sure.
They think they do. And that's the point. You have to be grounded in reality to take a noble goal and realize it through a process that is also moral. You have to stay grounded in the real world. You know, this sort of jump to zealotry and idealism.
I am grounded in the real world. I think I am. Like I said, I don't think that there's any like if I got my wish, what would be the consequence of it? What would be the consequence of it?
I don't know. There could be lots of consequences.
I don't think I honestly think that there would be next to no consequence. I think that you'd have a lot of people freak out and nothing would come of it. That life will go on. Corporations would put out the material they already do, or maybe they would be a little bit more edgy in what they promote, or maybe not. The thing is that I'm allowing the free market and for artists to do what they will. I'm not restricting them. And that's the thing that I'm sick of. I'm sick of it because every single time that someone starts down the road of censorship or the idea of whether it is speech or of art, if we want to make the distinction, there's never an end. It always continues forward.
Yeah, but there's really never an end to any of these kind of social things. These are constant battles that have to be had every generation.
Maybe yes, maybe no. I think in the United States, it's been pushed to such an extent that it is beyond any one generation, because we have it written in black and white in the law, and it would require what it would require would be a majority on the Supreme Court that would just start. It would, and the thing is that in the United States, it is in the law. It isn't just based in one generation. It would take multiple generations to basically subvert the First Amendment.
Yeah, well, all you're saying there is that the people who argue for free speech in the US have a remarkably strong hand, and good. You know, they should. People in Europe have a remarkably weak hand.
Sure, and I don't think that you're ever going to get to my position or the position of my country by compromising.
Then we've got to have a revolution, and we're not going to do that. I think you will get that by compromising.
I think that
listen. Right?
Go ahead.
The most people don't have the felicity to find a continent that is covered by people who can't make civilizations, and then to arrive with the most advanced civilization in the world and set up anew. Right? Most people don't have that freedom. that luck. Most European nations, like Britain, for example, hasn't had a revolution in like 400 years. So we have arrived here through the process of compromise, just slowly and gradually making things better. And we haven't had genocides, we haven't had tremendous problems that the continent has.
Well, I guarantee you that there are several nations in Europe that are on their way towards genocide if there aren't things that are immediately.
Undoubtedly, and I think that restricting freedom of speech is facilitating that.
Yes,
absolutely. I completely agree. But that's not the same as arguing for the sort of zealot position of absolute free speech all the time. Right. And I ideally, sure, I would actually be okay with that ideally, but being based in the more grounded in reality, you go, right, okay, what are the odds of me ever getting this? Not many. So what about I go for a stage that's like halfway there? I want the Nazis to be able to tell me how big a Nazi they are. That's what I want.
That is the root of it. That is the root of it, is winning hearts and minds of enough people to to back you, that you have enough social pressure that. And the thing is, it's multiple.
Right, no, I agree with you. That's exactly it. That's how we get society to change, right? And I don't think that animated or cartoon child porn is the way to do that.
No. See, that's the thing. You're
gotcha.
No. It isn't a gotcha. You're arguing the ball. You're not arguing the play. That's what I'm arguing. This is what this is all about. You're sitting there saying like, oh no, I'm actually telling you how we get to the end. You're not doing that.
Yeah, I know you are doing that, but the ball is currently off in the stands. And you're standing on the pitch going, well, look, we can get it to the end. It's like, no, we can't. The ball's over there. It's like, no. You're arguing the ball.
No.
Listen, play. And it's like, no, dude, the ball's already gone.
The only way your argument makes, like, so much of what you're arguing here is couched in Gab. Like, that is, this is the thing, like, the problem with Gab is that the head of their company is a fucking moron. That's their number one problem.
I bet. I fucking bet. Like, so anyone could have managed this better than Andrew Torber.
Yes. And the thing is that, like, there's a distinct difference. But like I said, I keep having to say this. It's Gab and Loli and Loli. And I'm speaking to the Loli issue that in terms of the Loli, if someone says, oh, this is disgusting, ban it. Your position shouldn't be to then say, okay, you're right, this is disgusting. It should be to say, no, you're wrong. You can find it disgusting, but to then ban it and then argue against them. That should be your default position.
Going on like a 2-week crusade?
No. Because this is Because this is the thing. Once you give that ground, you've already made the concession. You've already made that concession that there is something that we should be banning.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not in a position to say this has got to be this way or else.
No, my point is to say that in order to turn things around, in order for parts of this world to not become literally China, in which there are several nations in that direction currently heading, like mirroring their policy, and that includes many of the EU nations.
Yeah.
In order for us to turn that ship around, it can't be to start making concessions about what we should be bannable, because that's how we get to where we are now.
We have to. We're always going to make concessions on what's bannable. We always are. And and that's the thing. If you can't do that, then what I'm saying is you're taking the zealot's position. And I can't take that position. And I think that taking that position is actually counterproductive.
I don't agree, because I think that you can make it. Again, it's the difference between trying to argue to someone the difference between the thing that they actively want to ban versus trying to instill in them the idea of how willing they are to ban something simply because they don't like it. Is it affecting them? Is it affecting anyone around them? And the idea, no. And the thing is that it isn't just something that comes out of the ether.
Yeah.
This isn't some random issue. This isn't like something coming out of the sea that we all of a sudden just all discover. No, this is something that is being created by another person. That is interpreted positively by some people, by, let's say, a fringe. What moral standing does someone have to say that I'm in the right to take the pen or the brush out of the hand of this artist, and all of you that enjoy this person's creations, you're no longer allowed to see these people's images? You're not just penalizing and oppressing, in effect, the artist, but also the viewer. You are taking away the ability for the viewer to look at something and determine for themselves whether they find it offensive or something they like or they're neutral to.
True. That's absolutely true.
And I don't think that my position is one of zealotry. It's from the position of I'm trying to defend a position that I find to be moral against those that cannot, and I'll continue to fucking say this because it's absolutely true. There is no moral defense for censorship. I don't give a shit what it is and how offensive people find it or how gross it is. There is no justification because all that person is trying to do isn't even about them. Like, I don't like this. If it was just about them, turn off the screen. You know, click off their phone, whatever. Well, none of this is the thing. It's all about the control of what others are allowed to see.
Yeah, okay.
That's what this is about.
But this is the thing. You are only making a moral argument.
I can, okay, do you want to make it a legal argument? I can do that too. This isn't the only basis. I'm saying that from my person,
the legal argument we don't disagree on. I don't think it should be illegal. But you're only making a moral argument, and you're making a very specific liberal moral argument, right? And it's one I agree with, right? But I'm not making. But listen. But this is what I'm saying, right? Okay, so this is the moral argument. This is the ideal. This is what we want more than anything to not be censored. I agree. Hang on. Come on. Right. But now I'm going to make a different kind of argument that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that really, because of the current context, that I don't agree that now is the time. I think this is an inappropriate time to be standing on.
I don't agree.
When we're about to get our heads cut off, you know.
I don't agree. I don't think anyone's going to unsubscribe from you for not agreeing entirely with me. Well, I don't think that's happening.
Moral argument. I agree with your moral argument, but I don't agree with the fact that you're ignoring the pragmatic argument, because that's our connection to reality. So this is why I'm saying I can't follow you on this one, and I think that it's unrealistic to think that we'll never have any kind of censorship.
Well, I'm not ignoring. I'm not
on him, right? Because this is the thing, right? This is the reason I enjoy your channel so much, is because I agree with you in principle. I just have to be more realistic. You know,
I don't.
You will never be able to. This argument might well ruin me, even though I'm against you on it, and I find what you like morally reprehensible. This might get clipped, and that's it. Sargon's pro lolly, even though he spent the whole argument arguing against it, right?
Well, fuck them. Fuck
them. No, but I'm running a risk having this argument with you, right? And the reason that I have to say that is because you're not really under this kind of risk. Right.
Well, so fine. I can't do anything but concede to you on that.
Yeah, I know that's my point, right? And so we've got to. But this is the point. The real world matters because we live in it.
No, the whole basis of this is you having the gun of these social terrorists behind your head. That's the only thing that you're arguing.
That's part of me.
Fine, but that's not the real world. That's terrorism. That's social terrorism. That isn't anything normal. Okay, it's not normal. No. No.
You've got to be real. I agree that we want to aim in the direction you're pointing to.
This
have
is
to be aware of where it is we stand before we start moving.
You're making an argument on the auspices of the social terrorists in our society, the 8% who have their thumb over all of us. That is in effect normal. No, it isn't.
It's a reality.
It is reality. I don't deny that, but it's not normal. This is not normal.
Well, it depends how long it goes on for, but being normal doesn't matter. What matters is what we can do to try and get out from under it. And I honestly don't think that cartoon child porn is the way to do it. I just don't think it's going to work, mate.
I don't think that. I think you're misinterpreting the basis in which these people are taking down like Gab per se. Like Andrew Torba, even though he's eccentric and an asshole, I think that he is probably a normal guy ultimately. Eccentric, sure, but so am I.
Yeah.
But but he's a normal guy. He is not sitting around autistically for 24 hours a day on social media conspiring with other people to have random companies taken down, by going after other companies.
Yeah,
that is not normal. And I don't think that it does you any favors by trying to equate those people with what society would want or how society should feel.
Look,
I don't.
I'm not saying that, right? What I'm saying is,
It comes across as you are.
look, I'm not saying. I mean, it is normal. Let's be honest. We've been under this kind of regime for the past 4 years, 5 years, something like that.
Longer than that at this point.
Exactly. So, okay, so we can sit there and say, well, that's not normal. Well, it kind of is, frankly. In the same way that Steve Shives on the background of every fucking video, he's got "this is not normal." It's like, Steve, it's been 2 years. It's surely the norm by now that you've got Trump as your president. For fuck's sake. Well, after the next 6 years, you can be like, "This is not normal." No, it's fucking normal, right? But it's not whether it's normal or not. It's whether it's right.
Sure.
Matters, right? Hang on. It's whether it's right that matters. And I agree with you, it's not right, right? I don't like the fact that they have this. And that's all of my work is dedicated to getting rid of these people, right? But then I'm very much grounded in what we can actually achieve. Any measurable results are better than no measurable results, but being pure, right? That's my opinion.
I just don't think that I think that in your position, I can say that I can understand where you're coming from. I think that ultimately I'm just going to have to disagree overall with the argument towards pragmatism. I'm just going to have to disagree.
Yeah, but that's because you like the argument from principle more.
No, I fundamentally don't believe that if like giving ground on this, I don't think is going to solve anything or result in anything good. I like if this is something that Andrew did, and let's say Gab didn't get taken down.
Yeah.
And this was just continuing. And this debate was happening in the way that it is currently right now between you and I. Eventually, based on how he acted, Andrew and Gab would be, in effect, somewhere down the line, worse than Twitter. Sure. That is my argument. Because even with Jack in Twitter, they still frame things from the position of professionalism.
Yeah, Jack's actually not as bad as people think he is. I think it's the culture that he's surrounded by.
No, he is absolutely surrounded by people that are nipping at his heels every fucking day, every minute of the day.
Jack has in the last year or so, Jack's actually done things, and you know, like the Alex Jones thing. He was the one saying no, I'm not going to do it, you know, because he could see it all happening. And I can't even imagine the fucking pressure on Jack at that point. Right, so fair play to you on that one, Jack. He did it anyway eventually, but there we go. But the point is, there was a moment of resistance.
Well, my whole point, even in the moral sense, fine.
So this is my thing. It's like it's just like I don't see a path to anything that's good through what you're trying to do. Right, I don't think the wider society is going to accept it. I think that it's an unnecessary and irrelevant hill to die on, to be honest. I don't think it is. You could just DM each other the pictures to get around it. It's not like it's even like, oh, I'll never see a lolly picture again. I'm being censored, you know.
I just don't think
it's not like it's this, you know. It's not like there's no other options. I think you're blowing it out of proportion.
Well, this is the similar argument that progressives would give.
Well, again, it's an argument from pragmatism, because I said in principle, I don't disagree with you in principle. I do agree with that argument, but it's because I'm not going to take it to its zenith conclusion.
I just don't,
because I want to remain within the bounds of the real world.
Well, like I said, I'll just repeat myself that I don't think that conceding this will result in anything good. I don't think that at the end you're ever like. By giving Andrew this in this regard, just giving him this one, I don't think that actually does anything to prevent him from just moving down the same road that every other media company has. And in that regard, that's I think one of the definitive reasons why people say fuck Gab.
Yeah, but okay, so I agree with you on that point that there's this particular issue does nothing to prevent Andrew Torba from moving down the road of censorship. Is there anything else in any other vector that could prevent him?
If what would be required, the thing is that I don't know the situation of his company, but it seems like he is basically the autocrat of the company. Like everything that he wants happens, and there's no real way to force him out.
Sure.
But the thing is that I think for Gab to, in effect, have a future would be for him to step down. He can go behind the scenes and do whatever.
But let's assume he doesn't. Like, is there any other way of like preventing him from becoming increasingly censorious, or is it that he must allow lolly or nothing?
He would have to go back, and he would have to allow it, and he'd have to understand why people reacted in the way that they did, why it's wrong for him to do it.
Okay. Well, I feel that we're kind of going around in circles now, and it's gone 2 o'clock here. But no, I think we've laid our arguments out. You know.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, and I can already predict what the response is going to be. It's going to effectively be free speech or die.
Can you stick around for the super chats, because people will get really angry at me?
Okay, let me give me 5-10 minutes then, because I want to go take a piss. And
okay, I'll go through this then.
Yeah, okay. I'll be back in a minute.
Sure. All right, so I'll read through the super chats, because I know that there's a lot of people, and I don't want to piss people off for donating a lot of money. So Mobile Crusader said, "You can take my lolies and my guns when you pry them from my cold dead hands, you Brit Bong son of a cuck." Thank you, Mobile. Mitch says, "The scat man shall fear the loli." Fluffy says, "I'm only here for the degeneracy." SV says, "I rarely disagree with Sargon, but this is one of those times. Hashtag save our lolies." Thank you, SV. Mobile Crusader says, "March for our lolies." Hashtag. Paul says, "Censorship is black and white. It's either a moral good or it isn't. Censorship is bad, period. Limey won't get it. That's why we killed you in 1776. I might save that for when he gets back. SV says, "Loli is halal." Patrick says, "Sargon, thanks for calling me a free speech extremist. Also, let's not be free speech zealots." Paul says, "Everything is speech. Every expression is a Euro lie." Well, that's pretty much what I believe as well. I don't believe that, like, the whole reason why in the Supreme Court cases, and I don't remember the exact one that made the standard for immediacy and direct call to action. I'd have to look it up again, but even in that case, it's not what you say. Like, if I say, "Hey, there's Sargon, let's go beat him up," that's not the illegal part. It is you being right there and the call to action specifically. That is what's illegal. And by the way, it's like a misdemeanor offense. It's a threat. It's like menacing or something. It's like community service. If I then proceed to beat you up, then it's assault and battery, and maybe with some extra charges on top of it. But the reason why that was created, that standard was created, is because there's a million different ways to interpret things. And if I say I'm going to go beat up Sargon as I'm sitting here and he's in Swindon, well, then there's no immediacy to that so-called threat. And I could mean it as a joke. There's a million different ways to interpret it. Even if the victim in this case, Sargon, he obviously doesn't believe so. So should he be charged anyways, even though that's a threat? It's menacing? No. Because there's no immediacy. There's no means by which that I can facilitate that I can act on that threat. There's no way. So in the case of speech, it's incredibly subjective. So I don't agree that the idea that there's an objective way to speak and that there ever will be. The only way that there's ever going to be objective speech is if every mind in the world is formatted. That's the only way we have objective speech. Inferno says, "As soon as you're making exception to expression, you make exceptions to speech. You don't stand for free speech. Stop being a limey and learn constitutional law if you're going to try and bring it to the UK." Well, that's a good. I'll mention that when he gets back as well. I do think that's a point. He should study this a lot more, especially in terms of the reasoning of the Supreme Court, as they the best, like what they offer in terms of their opinions. Like, it's actually talked about behind the scenes in the back rooms. But it's actually interesting to read through cases and understand how they're coming to their conclusions. And a lot of times, even in dissenting opinions, you can garner a lot of information that informs you on how to understand law, how to understand principle, and understand also philosophically what it should be. And on speech and expression, it is subjective. There is no distinction that one can make that wouldn't be something that is purely unenforceable. There is no regulation of art. It doesn't exist. For example, I don't remember which country it is, but it is banned in that country to have full frontal nudity in games. So you cannot put a game on the market with full frontal nudity. It's either the UK or Australia. I don't remember which, by their ratings board. GTA 5 went to that nation with no censorship. Passed it with flying colors. No censorship, no question, on the market day one. Why? Unenforceable. Subjective. We don't allow full frontal nudity. Well, yeah, you do. But you don't have an enforceable standard because everything's subjective. Because it's art. This to me is the real problem with censorship. It is never equally enforced. It is always unjustly and unequally enforced. Censorship of art makes no sense, and it does not work. Doesn't work. Never has, never will. Will says, once you ban normie memes, you have made normie memes political speech. Anyone who posts them would be making a political statement. That's very true, Will. I agree with that. And that to me is what I already said. Like, once you say that Lolicon should be censored, you are then making it political, because that is you acting and creating legislation. That is you creating regulation. That is you being political. It's not the art that is political. That is you reacting to it and becoming political in your actions against it, rather than just saying, I don't like it. That's not political to say, I don't like something. Reacting to something and enforcing regulation against it, that is what makes it political. You are the one making it political, not the artist. Party says, top 10 enemy battles. Love both of you. I think Loli should be dealt with the way 4chan did it. Safe for work and non-safe for work boards, so no one is forced either way. I think that's a compromise I've already said I'm willing to do in terms of social media companies, because Gab did it and I never complained. IB says, stop being so grossly offensive, Louis. Nervous chuckle, concede the point of pragmatism, and repeal the First Amendment for optics. I think that he's misinterpreting the standard, that like the concession or the compromise you would want to make to a normal person versus the idea that you should compromise to a person that is in effect your political enemy that would see you dead if they had that ability, which is something that, by the way, Andrew understands. Andrew understands that they want him fucking dead, but he still is like flipping everyone off in the process. Like, hey, Andrew, I'm willing to invest in your company. What are you, a lolicon? What are you, a pedophile? Fuck you. And people just go, okay, then I guess you're on your own. Andrew is the worst person at his company, and I will continue to say that because it's true. But yeah, the whole point is that the whole issue with like pragmatism is that you're arguing pragmatism while we're still dealing with social terrorists that will never fucking concede, and they are totalitarians. They want control over us all. Like, if you are conservative, you're anything pro-Loli, anti-Loli, I don't really give a shit. Just leave me the fuck alone. Leave my guns alone. Leave my speech alone. Leave my Loli alone. That's all I ask, and I don't think that's much to ask. I don't think that makes me a zealot either. Party says again, Loli is a shit taste fetish, by the way. Step it up, senpai. I'm not saying that that's necessarily my fetish. I'm just willing to defend it. Blaze says, Tism just crashed. Get Bearing, Quarter, or Dank in. Dank is currently playing Magic the Gathering. Jeremy is in Discord saying something to Sargon. And I don't really know Bearing, and Bearing doesn't really know me. Unofficial Duck Studio says, flat as justice, and I will die to uphold that fact. I agree. Sage says, when you start censoring something unpopular like Loli, where does it end? Porn, books, memes. Principle is important to stand on. That's my position as well. Like, I don't see anything good coming from conceding this. I think all this does is it opens Pandora's box in conceding your enemy's opinion and allowing them to then have the silver bullet to use against you. Because if you're willing to concede on something you don't like, then everything else is gone. Will says, free speech is part of the social fabric of the United States. I agree, Will. IB says, not censoring Loli is unrealistic. Not my Bill of Rights. Mob rule now. That's sarcastic. Inferno says, subjective standards are always prone to abuse. No laws should be subjective. Gab shutting down is more of an economic problem, not a societal one. I agree, Inferno, with that. Will says, it's not the public they're appealing to, it's the advertisers and perception the advertisers have of what they think the public will want. That is true. Longsword says, yes, I've been waiting for this forever. Well, I hope you're enjoying it, Longsword. Thanks for the support. Paul says, so the founder of the Liberalists is a liberal. I don't think I would go that far, but I think he's being too open to the idea of conceding something that he shouldn't be, for the sake of a corporation run by someone who's fucking incompetent. And he shouldn't be. He should not be so defensive of them. Like, I understand why, and I don't agree with them being shut down, but like I said, it's the scenario of we're all in a plane, and Andrew's focused on us in the background while not being at all focused on the terrorists that are ready to stab him in the neck. And that is, in fact, what happened. Fitz says, CEOs are normie boomers who don't pay attention. Inferno says, free expression is unreasonable, quote Sargon. Tyler and Sabrina Paul says, Sargon wants a theocracy, send tweets. TK says, Sargon, you don't live under creationism being pushed in schools. I don't think you have the American PTSD of right-wing religious censorship. Yeah, that is true. I think very much in the United States, especially those who lived in the 80s under whatever it is, the Satan scare, whatever it's called, and when the actual moral majority existed. Yeah, man, they were fucking crazy. They burned out real quick, though. They're still around. Never forget that they went after Steam. They're still around, guys. Don't ever forget that the moral majority of the right are still around. They're just not in power. Will says, once you ban Loli for being degenerate, what's the argument for not banning S&M, fantasy struggle, snuggle, extramarital fantasy, anything degenerate? I would say that Sargon would say it's an adult. That would be what he would. Well, that is a good part about the fabric of society. So let's see if I can remember to bring that up, because I think it's important to say for that. TK says, will Gab censor a drawing of Muhammad boning Aisha? Probably not, because what's his face? Andrew hates Islam, so I don't think he'd ban that. And he is a Christian, or at least phones it in as that he is one. LM says Loli should be legal, so can find the people to kill. So we can find the people to kill. Okay, I understand. I disagree, LM. Mobile says if you ban beheading videos and take it, it's gore, you're no better than the censors. Well, the thing is with the banning of the beheading videos, I've already said, like, again, there's no standard that you can set that is actually going to be enforceable. It's going to be totally subjective and unenforceable. It'll be a total mess if you ban those. Like, I understand like why people want to ban ISIS propaganda and violent pornography that they put out of them cutting off people's heads. But the thing is that it's like, do you then censor like movies that do that, or a documentary that shows that footage, or what is the actual regulation that you put in place? It doesn't exist. It's just going to be just totally unenforceable, subjective standard by the individual censor, going off of a completely nebulous policy that's been directed from on high to them. It'll be completely unjust. Leonard says, holy shit, the Loli debate is actually happening. Tirino says, look at a platform like Discord, how quickly it exploded into the most popular platform. No, for voice comms, no censors. Yeah, that's actually true. One of the reasons why people kept turning to Discord was that it didn't actually have censorship, so I agree. Leonard says, say bourgeois social norms, Louis. I saw that tweet, and I didn't actually say it because I didn't want to use that against him. Dale says, Sargon, you act like gore is going to be on the front page. More likely, you will only see it if you're looking for it. Kind of disingenuous. I agree. I will bring that up once he gets back. Deswu says, why are you trying to argue for new platforms, ban things normies and leftists might find offensive? Why start a new platform that is the same as the rest? I agree. LM Louis, screw the optics and going in Levi. Will says the platform gets big while it's very pro free speech. Look at the internet as a whole, normie use of it, and you're always a click away from insanity. Sure. Patrick says utopian arguments that the Supreme Court finds valid. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. That's a great point, Pat. I got to remember that when he gets back. Will says, once you ban a piece of art, anyone who posts it is making a political statement. You can't separate the two. The conversation makes lowly political. I agree. Leonard says, immoral but not illegal, because America, you don't consider it free because you have that European values, not freedom values like America. Longsword says, sacrifice principles equals helping the liberalists. LM says, Loli is free speech. What if the child consents IRL? Mobile says, how is sitting there and taking the censor cock doing nothing the proper course of action? Free speech is greater than rules for radicals.
Well, I don't agree.
Well, I got some juicy ones, some comments here for you. Well, let me finish these up real quick. I'll burn through them. Torba does not stand for the lowly people. Why should they stand for him? Inferno.
Okay, let me answer that. Because you have other interests on Gab than Lolly, surely. This again, what I mean by being a zealot. This is like a one-dimensional analysis. And I mean, if you want to say that this is the hill I'm going to die on, then okay. I'm not going to stop you from dying on that hill, but it's really not very productive, is it?
This is the hill I'm dying on, baby.
I don't think you're going to find mass support for this.
I don't care. I'll be I'll be the fringe.
Okay. But yeah, carry on. What's the next one?
Actually, let me roll back and get to some good ones.
Mm.
Let me find it. Someone's insulting you. Oh, here's a good one. Censorship is black and white. It's either a moral good or it isn't. Censorship is bad, period. Lime, you won't get it. That's why we killed you in 1776.
Well, okay. Two points. Second point, the French saved you. You're the only nation.
Oh.
But secondly, that's not true. That's the position. It's either black or white. I'm not a zealot, though. I think that is the opinion of a zealot.
Well, the only things that I would ever argue from a position of practicality of censorship would be state secrets that leak that would otherwise, like, let's say, like.
Oh my God! I can't believe you're in favor of censorship, Lewis. How dare you?
Yeah, but the consequence would be dead soldiers. That would be the position.
So you would censor people to prevent dead soldiers. You're a terrible person, though. Censorship is always a moral wrong.
Well, the question is, it begs the question of, well, how does the state do that then? The thing is, with that kind of censorship, it's one of two things: either the state already has the power to remove that from the platform, or the platform removes it on the request of the government.
Yeah, but I thought censorship was just always a moral wrong.
It is.
Well, then it's not wrong to allow information to be leaked that will kill soldiers. Well,
it's a moral wrong for, in effect, the greater good of saving lives.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You've got to make your choices. You've got to be grounded in the real world and say which is actually worse. I think it's worse that Gab's taken off the internet because of lack of support.
Well, the lollies didn't
not to have lolly on it.
The pro lollies didn't do that. It was the
I didn't say
insane progressives.
Gab needs their support at the moment. Gab needs everyone's support. You guys seem to be, apart from the SJWs, you the only guys against Gab. Everyone else seems to be on their side.
Well, the reason why we're against them, I would say, is because we were attacked.
Yeah.
By the guy that literally runs the company and makes all the decisions.
Okay.
Well, that's why.
Yeah, but that's just you guys being butthurt then, isn't it?
Maybe so. Well, so is he about his company.
Yeah, he is. He totally is. Like the meltdown. Yeah, I agree.
No, he's not actually melting down. Really, this is one of the reasons why I don't like him. He has two faces. It's regular Andrew and then Boy Scout Andrew. And
sure, but I mean about the lolly stuff, like the stuff you were telling me, the way he was reacting emotionally and belligerently. Yeah, he seemed really butthurt by it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he seemed really upset about it. And
well, it's not the first time he's done that, by the way.
Sure, but it is to your own benefit and everyone else's if Gab exists, whether it puts Lolly on or not.
I suppose. I mean, it depends in what way you mean.
Well, is it
I
not
mean,
better for Gab to not be censored?
Sure, but I can say that about anything.
Yeah, but the current question is about Gab.
Well, then, no, I don't agree with the censorship. I've already said as much.
Okay, then can the Lolly community stop advocating and saying, "Great, this is good that Gab's been censored because fuck them because we got hurt by them."
You know how I can guarantee you it stops is if Andrew came out and said that once we get back up, I'll reconsider it. Then it stops.
Well, good luck. I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, I don't think he's going to do it either because he's a fucking asshole. So
yeah, but then like, you're not persuading me that you're not zealous. That's all I'm saying. And it's okay if you want to be zealous.
Okay. Well, but here's the thing. It's like having a guy like a guy punches you in the face and then gets arrested for something else, and he's going, "Help me, help me." It's like what's his face from Blazing Saddles? Help me, help me! Like, and you're just supposed to look at him. It's like, yeah, dude, you're a fucking asshole. Like, like you hit me. Like, yeah, are you getting arrested on a false charge? Yes, but you're the one that hit me.
Yeah, okay. Well, not necessarily being arrested on a false charge, but if like an accident happened or something, you'd help that guy even if he just hit you, right?
I'm gonna close chat or close Discord because fucking V is saying some ignorant shit.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, let's get back to these.
Yeah, let's get through these because.
Oh, here we go. Inferno says, as soon as you're making an exception to expression, you're making exceptions to speech. You don't stand for free speech. Stop being a limey and learn constitutional law if you're going to try and bring it to the United Kingdom. And I actually agree with the second half of that.
No. Again, to me, this just seems like autism. Like it's just one extreme or another. Like this previous one just here, right? Sargon, your own argument would mean you support Dank being in prison. No, it doesn't, and you know that. That's an unbelievably extreme interpretation of what I'm saying. I think there are reasonable compromises that will and have to be made. They will be made eventually. It's just getting them to come to the table on those reasonable compromises. And I like the only thing is that this isn't even a part of this conversation now. You know, this is just about how these things work. It's not one or the other. I mean, it's not either.
Here, I got a red pill question for you.
Go ahead.
If a lowly artist from the United Kingdom was arrested and imprisoned, would you defend them?
Yeah.
Would you defend them to the same degree that you defended Dank?
If necessary, I suppose. Yeah. If I can defend against the Jews, then
yeah, but as a joke. As a joke. Yeah, I mean, unironic, actual Lolicon artist gets arrested and imprisoned.
Well, yeah, but I think it's immoral to arrest someone for something that isn't hurting someone else. That doesn't mean I don't find what that person is doing not immoral. I still do find what they're doing immoral, but I don't think it's hurting anyone, so I don't think it should be illegal.
Well, my point is defending them.
And the thing is, there are even some things that maybe should be illegal, even if they're not hurting people.
Sure, but I think that, you know, there's a limited degree that that's actually true.
Absolutely, and I think that there is certainly an argument to be made that Lolly falls into that. So, but I mean, but like I said, I'm more than happy to side with the it's not hurting anyone, therefore we can just leave it wherever, you know, it'll be an interest group that is left alone, effectively.
But I do agree with this person in the second half of this. You should study more, even if it is American, you should study more constitutional law. Because I think that it makes you a lot better able to understand the reasoning of the Supreme Court. And they don't show you the back.
So I'm not appealing to law. I'm appealing to moral standards.
No. I am saying specifically to understanding, like, even philosophically, how to argue certain things, and the basis of which certain cases were rendered and decisions being made. Mm-hmm. You know, like some of the conversations are shitty, but some of the conversations are actually very important to understand. And I think that they can actually help with your reasoning. So I would encourage you to read more.
The problem isn't a failure of my reasoning.
No. I'm just saying I would encourage you to read more Supreme Court cases in the United States Supreme Court.
That's undoubtedly a good idea. And to be honest with me, if you've got any good ideas, just send me a link to them. You know what I mean? If you know which ones, if you've got any particular ones in mind that
there's
send them through.
I'd have to dig for it, but I had an old textbook that covered like it like a huge part of it was like expression, a huge like pornography, the press, like all of these different cases that led up to existing law and existing precedents. Now I'd have to find that book, but there's
I've just finished reading a book on English law actually.
Oh, well, that's good in your case for understanding what's going on over there.
And just the concept of like how it developed and why it developed as it does. But the thing is, I'm not making an argument for the law really anyway. So it's, I'm like I said,
I think that if you are
making an argument specifically from the direct context in which we find ourselves, which I think every argument ultimately has to be grounded in, regardless of which direction in which you want to go.
I would say though that if you ever were to consult with somebody in politics or were to get into politics, you're going to flip from reading like Hayek to actual case law really fucking quick.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
But anyways, there was another good one in here. Let me find it. More people making fun of you.
That's fine. This is the thing, right? The only reason to do that would be to know is at the point where there's no counter to my argument that I'm making.
No, there are some ones on here. Let me find it.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean,
there's a good. Okay, I'm skipping a couple, but let me find the one. I know there's a good one. Oh, okay. So there's two here. This is by Will. Once you ban lowly for being degenerate, and this is on the auspices of the social fabric of society, what's the argument for not banning S&M, fantasy struggles, snuggle, extramarital fantasy, anything arguably degenerate?
Well, all of this is from subjective preferences of the culture.
True.
So it would be an argument from the subjective preferences.
But he's saying that if you're going to basically not defend lowly, how do you then defend S&M, everything else?
In exactly the same way. You say, I don't find that offensive, and a lot of people support you. That's how all of this works. I don't think you're ever going to find enough support for lolly.
Well, maybe not, but that's not the point, I don't think.
Well, it depends what you're trying to do, doesn't it? If you're trying to be morally if you're trying to be morally pure, then yeah, sure, you're way more morally pure than me at this point. But if you want to get anything done, come on.
I'm just not really persuaded by the idea of like we need to be poll testing like what we're defending.
We need to be what, sorry?
Poll testing, meaning going to the public and testing how popular something is.
Why, like, if we don't, we'll never get anything done.
But then it's not actually a principled stance. It's just what is popular speech, and that's what we're going to defend.
It's working towards a principle.
Okay, maybe, but it's you sound like I forget the name of the actor from Idiocracy, but you're basically him, where you're basically dealing with you perceive as everyone around you as being fucking retarded, and you need to basically like hold their hand into different ways. I don't know if I can agree with that.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. Like,
I'll just leave it there. We'll let that sit.
This thing is like everyone's like, right, we should be at the very end point. It's like, okay, we're not at the very end point. Well, we should be. It's like, okay, but should we look at trying to take a step towards the end point? It's like, no, we're not at the end point, and therefore I'm not moving. It's like, okay. That's how everyone sounds.
Okay.
I'm standing on principles. It's like, okay, yeah, no, I agree principles are important. And once you've worked out what your principles are, you can work out how to get there from a framework of being in reality. So it's like, right, okay, I would like to go towards absolute free speech. I don't think we're going to get there. So I'm going to start the next step, which is not getting the Nazis kicked off the internet. I'm sorry. I know that they're Nazis. I know they're awful, but they have to stay. They have to be able to spew this, and we have to say, look, this is the unacceptable stuff that is awful. and we treat it as if it's all. We don't just start smearing everyone who has a thought as a fucking Nazi. You know what I mean? That is a reasonable next step, an accomplishment I think we can do. And I think that part of that is getting Gab back online. And I think the mass social pressure communicated correctly can work. I mean, it obviously can work. So this is what we should do. But instead of taking this as like, I don't think that's a reasonable argument. I don't think that even if you want the very end result, you saying a step in the right direction is a good idea. But you guys are just saying, right, we're not going to do it just because we don't like Andrew.
Well, I mean, if
so,
we're
the thing is, that's fine. Okay.
The whole thing with Gab is that
shut up about it.
You know how I can get Gab online tomorrow? I can start a company that facilitates the exact things that he requires to be online. Boom, he's online.
Yeah, that sounds great. I wish someone would.
Well, there you go. It's just, and part of this is the free market, just not responding quick enough.
Actually, this is basically being. It's not a free market, is what we're looking at.
That's the thing.
This is a group of cartels, a lot like the medieval guild system. If you fall outside of their authority for whatever reason, they'll just shut you down.
Well, I've talked to a couple of people that I still keep in contact to, and I've seen this like rumbling around that, and I've also seen this written by like a couple different like mainstream websites. After the election, there might be some actual regulation coming down the pipeline for all these companies.
Yeah, I mean,
because
can I just I just to address a few of the points in the chat, because there's some really good ones, right? So Sargon is saying support Torba even though he isn't a free speech absolutist because it's better than the SJWs. That's true, right? And then the next point was let's see.
Really quick, people are being censored in the chat. I can't control it, guys. I'm sorry. I've been approving every comment I can. It's this fucking shit platform.
Right, yeah, sorry. And then once Torba is the status quo, then we try and force him to allow the lolly. That exactly right. That is a plan with a concrete goal, which is directly grounded in your principle, and an actual method by which to get there. Make Torba the status quo. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's an achievable goal, but like it's at least a plan, rather than just saying, right, we're going to just be for the end goal. It's like, how are you going to get there? You've got to figure out how you get there. That's what I'm saying.
Fair enough. I think that's reasonable to get Gab online and then berate Andrew as much as we can.
Yeah, totally.
All right, there's another comment. Okay, so this is one. Dale says, Sargon, you act like, and this is in reference to allowing certain things on platforms that normies wouldn't like. You act like Gore is going to be on the front page. More likely, you will only see it if you go looking for it. Kind of disingenuous.
Okay, right. Commenter, when you say kind of disingenuous, right, I'm giving you the thing. You can just get fucked. Just go away. Just seriously, whoever you are, just fuck off. Do me a favor and just piss off, right? Don't fucking call me disingenuous when I come here and have this kind of conversation with the actual danger this holds to my reputation, right? Fuck yourself. And if I ever see you in real life, identify yourself to me. That's all I'm saying.
Jeez,
identify
dude.
yourself to me. No, fuck you, right? Don't call me fucking disingenuous. What was the first half again? Sorry.
You act like Gore, meaning like violent images are going to be on the front page.
Okay, so Gab was up temporarily the other day. I went there. I wasn't logged in. And the first post I saw was from Andrew Anglin.
Yeah, I know. I heard you say that the other day.
So, yeah, I am acting that way because that's effectively what we're talking about. So, there we go. And just fuck yourself. Don't fucking come and call me disingenuous.
A quick question.
Seriously.
I don't want to provoke you, but are you better than him?
No, I'm being honest.
I know.
I didn't come here with being disingenuous.
I know. I that's the thing is that my whole thing is like I've already said this. Like my problem was never with you.
I know
it was with Dank and it was with Andrew, and Dank pretty much like said I'm on vacation, and that was the end of that fucking conversation. Yeah. But with Andrew, he was specifically asked by not myself, but by other people, and he flat out denied it. And it's like, okay, I think he's a little bit too busy now.
you told me about the flip out, and I was like, Christ, Andrew, I mean,
Deuce days.
If you've got don't get me wrong, right? The not safe for work tag, I'm actually completely with you on the idea that that's probably fine. You know, that's probably
that was his concession to make up for, like, Stripe asked him, or one of those companies, I think it was Stripe, said, we don't like the porn issue. Can you put a not safe for work tag? And he said yes. And he said, listen, we're gonna have to do this for not safe for work perks or posts like porn or whatever. Just click it. It's in our TOS. Just click that button. It's like, okay, it's just you clicking, and there was people already complaining about me posting in fact porn. And that solved the issue. So it's like, all right, this is fine. It's a compromise, and I also solve an issue with people that are following me.
Yeah. But so Stripe had their arm twisted by a gang of SJW.
But that was my whole thing. Is I don't know if you said this or someone else said that. Oh, this is that we should have banned Loli to placate Stripe. But it's like, no, this was never about the Loli when it came to Stripe. They were just going to do this anyways.
It was about the fact that it would have been pornographic, if anything.
Yeah, but the thing is, they already compromised in that, and it didn't change anything. They still banned him anyways. And this is a comment making fun of me. Louis, screw the optics. I'm going in. Levi.
That is what you're saying. Yeah.
So this is a good diss to you by Patrick, who says, in relation to what I'm arguing, utopian arguments that the Supreme Court finds valid.
Yeah, a utopian argument can be valid.
I don't know. Like,
well, it depends what it is.
Maybe.
Well, you're making the utopian argument.
I don't think so.
You are saying there should literally be no censorship.
Yes.
That's a utopian argument. That's the apex condition.
Well, it isn't
any better than that.
It is the apex condition, but. Well, no, it could actually. I think it could get better than that.
Okay, how could it get better?
Rather than having a lot of shit that would just, like trolling or botting people promoting shit that it's like spam, that sort of thing. Rather than all that, you have a golden age of artistic expression of art. That's utopian, in my view. The ending censorship brings on a golden age of artistic expression in art. That is
that would effectively inevitably happen anyway, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily.
You don't think so?
It doesn't mean that things don't become any less mediocre.
Well, yeah, but there are whole schools of art that are purposed around being mediocre. This is the problem with art. It's all subjective. Yeah. There are people who think that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of profitable art is mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking Andy Warhol can just...
Yeah,
fuck off! It's just unbelievable. And
the absolute worst painting. I don't want to get off track because we got a lot to get through. Was there? This is true. There was because somebody said to me the worst painting I ever actually saw, like they saw it, was a painting in an actual museum or an art gallery of like a dot in the center of the canvas, and that was it.
Yeah,
and I've actually seen. I think I was in Washington or Chicago. I don't remember. I visited a museum or a gallery in both Washington, D.C. and Chicago. I don't remember where I was, and I saw this in a museum. It was nothing but a blank canvas. And it enraged me. Because
I'm angry just hearing about it.
Because the thing is that if the way that you actually make that art is you draw an artist, like literally an artist with an easel, in a blank canvas and him looking at the blank canvas and thinking, that is art.
Right. Because we are getting off topic here.
Okay, fine. But I'm just saying that is what they're trying to imply with the blank canvas, but they're failing to do because it's fucking lazy. It's not art. But actually painting the artist looking at a blank canvas, that is art.
Okay. Let's get the next one.
More people shitting on Europe.
That's fine.
Once you ban it.
No, the Article 13 thing, YouTube put out a fucking statement about that the other day, didn't they? You're all going to have to get VPNs, Europeans.
Yeah. Because they basically said they're pulling the plug, didn't they?
Yeah. They're
pulling out
something about it. But like, we already have loads of this, right? Like, if I go to the LA Times, let me just do it now. If I go to the LA Times, this is what it tells me. Unfortunately, our website is currently unavailable in most European countries.
Oh, is that because of that whole link thing?
Yeah, the Article 11 thing. And it's not even it's not even been put in yet. It's just this is preparatory. It's just like being advanced. And honestly, I can't wait till we get out of the EU. All this is going to come in 2021, I think it is. We should be out 2019. So fucking goodbye, Europe. You know what I mean? You're on your own.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think a lot of that kind of thing is basically going to unravel the EU. I don't imagine, like, because the thing is that once people lose their entertainment value, like once they lose Google and YouTube and all these entertainment vectors, all you need is for like Netflix or something to pull out, something like that, and all you're left are people with no means by which to distract themselves and just fronted with the idea that they can't look at what they want to look at. And if you want to see revolution, that's what brings on revolution. Is basically taking away people's ability to distract themselves from what's directly in front of them. I don't think that I don't think censorship is ever going to lead to anything that doesn't end in either the censorship being stripped away or revolution. I don't think that those are the two options, because in China right now they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to really have their little social system of censorship and also like a culture. But the thing is that it's basically an inner struggle between the Xi Jinping, his administration, which is super insanely authoritarian and totalitarian, like even worse than others, versus the growing like uber bourgeois culture that's growing in China. Like the uber bourgeoisie, they want art, they want music, they want films, they want entertainment.
I think we're going a bit off topic again.
Sure, but anyways, my point is that can't last forever.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I think there's one more good one. Anyways, I guess we're moving on. Zealotry is an argument or defense of a point. I guess we'll skip past that because we've already argued that. Americans are free speech absolutists. Deal with it. By Leonard. Will says you're talking past each other. Louis is arguing principles. Sargon is arguing pragmatism. You both.
Yeah, no, I keep conceding. I agree that in principle you're correct, but in real life you're going to get gang fucked. So, let's pay attention to real life.
He's correct in that where we don't agree on is in timing, where you think now is not the time, and I see that as a moot point. I think that any time is the right time.
Well, no, but that's the point, isn't it? Like, let's get Gab back. Then we can pressure Gab.
Sure.
So now
I agree. I think that it is irrational to not take the position that it's better to have Gab back and then shit on Andrew.
Yeah.
Once it's back.
Because then you can do it on his own platform.
Yeah, that's true. So I would agree that
was always one of the gems that I loved about Twitter is I shout on Jack all the time on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
so I agree. Let's what would be the question is I have a couple of people that are friendly with me that I know to some degree. They've been blocked by him over this.
Really?
So I am waiting. I am anticipating Gab coming back. I'm hoping that it does come back, and if it does, I'm gonna go on Gab and I'm gonna send a tweet towards at A, which is Andrew, and I'm gonna shit on him over this, and let's see if I get blocked or banned or something on Gab. We'll see.
I don't think he'll ban you, but he'll probably block you.
Yes, or mute me or whatever.
Yeah,
Mr. Twisted says, question, if Gab had not branded themselves as a free speech platform and instead just stated something like an alternative platform, would this conversation be even happening? Probably not on my end.
Well, I think so. I mean, like, Gab is not a free speech platform just because they don't want Lolly on it.
No, not necessarily. I'll just leave that aside.
It's the absolutist position, isn't it?
Maybe so.
I mean, I'm as long as we can agree.
Louis 3D is PD Levi versus Carl. Let them take your lowly Benjamin. Oh, Jesus, just fucked up. Seattle for nothing now, or settle for nothing now, or you'll settle for nothing. I think that's taking the absolutist point of don't settle for any censorship now.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we don't have a choice. Like,
Radion says Loli is a negative right CMV, which I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I do. I love it. Yeah, I mean, in a way, that's kind of true. Yeah.
Inferno says obviously Sargon never read Art of the Deal. That is true about negotiation.
Well, that's why I asked you what you were going to compromise on. You said nothing.
Yep.
So right. Is it me who didn't read the Art of the Deal? I didn't actually, but
Well, see, if I read The Art of the Deal, the way that I would negotiate is that I want state sponsors lowly. Now you need to walk me back from there. Allowing it to be free, that's my concession. But otherwise, I do want, in fact, state subsidies for Lolicon artists.
Move to Norway. They probably have them.
I don't want to move anywhere in Europe.
Oh no, I'm not joking. Norway probably actually has that. Like Art sent me a thing of this feminist woman doing some performance. And he was like, she's funded like 200,000 kroner a year or something. I'm like,
yeah, you've already spoiled the plot. It's feminist, and that's not going to cover. I mean, if I was a Muslim, maybe I could do it.
Like this will be considered some weird kooky fetish that they have to foster.
Sure,
because they're degenerate as fuck.
Please make a video outlining how we get to free speech through pragmatic censorship. That's kind of harsh. I don't know if that's exactly a fair interpretation.
Well, it's obviously not. And the point is, we have to take pragmatic steps to get to free speech. And if you define any point that isn't complete freedom to be censorship, which you do, then you can always frame it that way. But that doesn't make it any less realistic on your part.
Mobile says, this is one of those first step moments. This is the first they came for the lowlies moment. Don't let the chain start. Stand up to them. I agree.
You're still on Twitter, you pervs. Jesus.
I'm dying on this hill.
Twitter still it lets lolly on Twitter, doesn't it? They Jack and whatnot. They let lolly on Twitter.
Yeah. In large part, as far as I know, they don't ban anything.
It's literally just about Gab. You're complaining.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Facebook bans it too, and so actually somebody said Minds bans it.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure either. Fuck Europhiles insults you by saying actually being principled is just zealotry. Bend the knee. Sargon, how do you think these things got this bad? You idiot! Stop bending the knee.
No, that's not true at all.
Mitch
that person doesn't know how these things got this bad at the moment.
Mitch says, Boomer, yeah. Boomer USA, whoa, yeah. Beamer says, I love listening to you guys debate. Thank you, Beamer. Dominic says, Loli is not child porn. It's victimless. I think we both agree to that.
Yeah, but the problem is the perception the public's going to have of it.
Sure. Is there a legal precedent separating speech and expression? I hear argument that expression isn't part of the First Amendment. In my regard, to my knowledge, no, there isn't a legal distinction.
Well, maybe you should read up on your Supreme Court documents.
Well, the only exception that I'm aware of is the Miller standards or the Miller test. That's the only one that I'm aware. And Ferber, which is it involves a victim. There has to be a victim, and it has to do with pornography. And the thing is, even with that, it pisses me off. It's not enforced. It's like every time, like those. I've already brought this up, and it's true. The drag kid shit.
Oh yeah.
Anytime you put a kid on a stripper stage in a skimpy outfit, you take pictures of it, and there's no way they're not distributing like advertisements for that. There's no way they're not doing that. That is a violation of the Ferber standard, and is by that distinction, child pornography. Oof. It doesn't have to include nudity to be child porn. But is that enforced? Nope. So that's my whole thing of looking at the standards even set by the Supreme Court of, this is where we need to limit this art. It's like, well, you don't even fucking enforce it.
Well, so I mean, we're not talking. Like I said, we're not talking about the legal status of it, aren't we? So.
Well, I'm just arguing at the basis of the idea of, well, we can solve this via regulation. It's like, no, you can't. It's never going to be enforceable, never. And that's my real issue with it. Is that like. It's up to the person with the gun. It's like the Eye of Sauron, expecting the Eye of Sauron to see everything. It's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what's the next one?
Sargon, your own. Ooh, is another harsh one. Sargon, your own argument would mean that you support Dank being in prison. I don't think that's true because I don't think you
addressed that one.
Yeah, I know. You already said you're not arguing this to be legalese.
Yeah. But also again, it's not that. It's not all or nothing. There are some things that are offensive to the public morality. And it's not really me arguing this either. I'm not arguing for these things to be illegal. But like the argument is the standards. It's just about the standards of society. It's all subjective. That's the thing. You can't say there's an all or nothing objective argument here because there isn't.
Well, I would suggest to you that you should read up on obscenity law, because I think that that's the reason why you have those porn laws in your country now against like random shit against women and women squirting and shit. It's like,
yeah, it's nuts. Face sitting. You're not allowed to face
yeah,
sitting.
right. I guarantee you, I haven't seen the law. Like I haven't read through it. I guarantee you, ask one person, okay, what's the basis of this law? Oh, obscenity. I guarantee you.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you.
And I'm not saying I'm in favor of them either. I'm just presenting that.
No. But my point in saying that is the reason why it's important to understand the law is to understand that when people, what they'll say to you is, oh, you don't even understand the Miller Standard, do you? You don't even understand obscenity law, because that's what fucking Antonin Scalia did all the time. Even though he was a fairly like intellectual justice, you do that shit all the time. Like, excuse me, but do you even understand the obscenity standard? And it's like, yeah, it's bullshit, dude. Come off it. Anyways, what the fuck is Loligate, and why is there even a debate? Because this is our weak moment in time. This is the liberalist movement dying.
This is the autism. Go on.
Adherent says thoughts on the new leftist channels like Sean. I'm not sure who that is.
Oh, he's not Sean and Jen. Well, they're just SJWs.
Yeah, irrelevance. Yeah. They're bigger personalities or personality on Twitter than fucking YouTube. So whoop-de-doo. Yeah. Inferno says expression is a penumbra of the First Amendment. There is no distinction. Don't let Sargon get away with what with saying that it is. Well, again, that's to do with legalese, and in the legalese, I agree, and in principle, and I also agree. So we'll just have to disagree there. So is there anything else, chat? Because is there anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to wrap this up?
Well, let's wrap up because it's 3 o'clock in the morning here.
Sure. So anything else, chat, real quick? Last minute, last things, last thoughts. I'd like to thank really quick Sargon for showing up and engaging in this debate with me and putting his reputation on the line to insist to me that this is something that he's willing to stand for up in principle, but argue pragmatically against.
Well, let me address some things. So, Sargon is unprincipled. No, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck does that mean? If you're not autistically strict on something, you're unprincipled. Do you know that is the mind of a Calvinist right there?
They might be fucking with you though. They might be fucking with you.
But seriously, there are people who genuinely think this because they get.
Sure.
I think they get wrapped up into the kind of the groupthink of the thing. And I think that happens in every place. People who unironically think Donald Trump is Hitler actually think Trump is Hitler. And this is this kind of mindset that I think we have to be really wary of. And I think that you're seeing it here about a really weird subject for it to be seen about.
Well, I will say that Inferno is correct that most laws are based on principles. And that saying that the law has nothing to do with principles is disingenuous. I don't think that it's necessarily disingenuous. It's just...
I don't think it's even that, right? Well, a lot of laws are based on unexpected consequences.
Yes.
The implementation of principles.
Yes. I'll agree with that. I agree with that. I think that is really the basis.
Look, laws are definitely related to principles, but usually they're to prevent the remission.
Yeah. If you look at the United States, the amendments to the Constitution, all of them are reactionary. All of them, other than the first 10. Actually, no, even the Bill of Rights is reactionary because they had the original draft of the Constitution and went back. They stopped and said, we're actually leaving a lot of things out of this. And that's when they drafted the Bill of Rights. And then they were ratified together.
Yeah.
They didn't do them separately because they were afraid that without them, we would basically just have a tyrannical state. And I think they were fucking right.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just autism, basically. If you're going to sit there and go, oh, you've got to do this to the fullest extent. No, you don't. No one does. So,
well, I
say it on the internet.
I'm glad that you showed up, and I wish people would be more forgiving to you for actually showing up, because there are 2 other people in this that did not, who actually had a bigger issue in regards to this.
You mean you actually had an issue with them?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just fucking me. Dank was getting shredded on Twitter for like multiple fucking days.
Mm-hmm.
So,
very good.
yeah. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, Sargon. Thanks for putting
anytime.
up with everyone. I'm glad that we had this argument.
That's
And
fine. Me too. It's been interesting. You know, it's a nice mental exercise either way.
yep. And I'm hoping that maybe we can continue to, maybe the rest of us that support Loli can continue to autistically screech at you and at Dank and everyone else to our heart's content.
I think that's probably inevitable. But also, if you could autistically screech at the people who are deplatforming Gab, that would be useful.
Well, the issue is in that case, though, half of them are fucking secret. That's. I think that. Well, the thing is that I think a lot of these people. I think the best way that a lot of this is going to be solved is dragging these fucking retards out into the light.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think one thing we should do is actually. I mean, we know who at Stripe was talking to.
Yeah, now we do. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, now we do. Literally, like yesterday or something, it came out. Right. What we should probably do is send them the links to these things. Say, look, we know why you've done this. You know, like we can, you know, start emailing them en masse and stuff. Like,
sure.
This isn't a fucking secret. This, you know, we like make a big public deal about it. Get the public aware of the fact that Stripe, the biggest payment processor on the internet, probably is being fucked with. Like this matters, man. This is like coercion. You know, it's like fuck off, and it's to hurt a competitor to Twitter. We can't just let that stand, man.
Yeah, I think that I'd be willing to see if anyone comes up with something to hopefully try to push back against these people, or you know, I'd be willing to see. Like I said, I think that in the case of Gab, it'd be more productive to wait for everything to get back online and try to see what can be done to help get everything back online at Gab, and then shit on Andrew once he's back on. Once his platform is then back.
Yeah,
the company's
I
back
think
online.
I would definitely. I mean, if I like putting myself in your position, one of like the next big win for the lolly cause, I would think would be shitting on Torba on his own platform.
Yeah.
I think
the only thing is that I think we'll wrap this up by saying that to Dale, I think it was earlier, what I'm going to do is do in real life blood sports, and I'm going to set up a fight between you and Sargon over calling you disingenuous.
Yeah, we'll do this, man. I'm being totally serious.
Oh no,
I can afford to fly. Remember, so like, let's do this.
Oh no, Dale. Well, Dale, email
I'll
me.
actually show up where Andy Warski didn't. How's that?
Oh.
Ooh.
So Dale, if you're still listening, email me. What?
Yeah, he didn't actually go for the fight, did he?
As far as I know, that was what happened. He didn't show up or whatever.
Fuck, I can't. Isn't everyone not giving him massive amounts of shit over that?
I steer, clear of all that.
Guys. I suppose. I don't know. But I would assume that he had nothing about it and nothing but that for the next 6 months.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Dale, email me. Email me, Dale. We'll see if we can set this up. Mad Lad Sargon fucking killing Dale over calling him disingenuous.
Yeah, but no, I'm banking that Dale isn't some 6'6" fucking paramilitary guy.
I don't know.
That was me putting the money on the table and thinking, right, I hope he doesn't flip a couple of aces or something.
He's gonna send someone on his behalf. He's gonna hire someone to show up and say, "Hey, I'm Dale."
Well, shit.
All right. Well, thanks again. I'll try to reach out to Dank, and I advise you to do as well.
I don't think he wants to.
No, yeah. Reach out to him. Get Dank on here. Everyone, people shouldn't be giving you shit. I already said Dank should be the one getting shit because he already said yes before he went on fucking vacation, and he got sick. Other than he just did 2 streams today.
I don't know. I'm
give him shit. That's what I'm saying. You should be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're answering for Gab, now you're answering for Dank.
Yeah, Louis on a purity spiral. Go and talk to someone over it. Oh, okay.
That's right.
Do you know that's how Ralph ended up losing in the end?
Purity spiral?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my next plan, is to start doxing people over Loli. I'm gonna dox. What I'm planning on doing is doxing Andrew, or who had his family members. I don't know exactly what happened to his family members. Like they got attacked of some kind by
really?
Random people. Yeah, something happened to his family. He's alleging that.
Oh, okay.
That's my next plan. I'm becoming a loli terrorist.
Are you taking credit for that? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, it was over the loli. He thinks it was the progressives. It was actually the lolicons. They were the ones that did that.
Jesus.
Lolicons rise up. That's what I'm saying.
The lolly death squads.
Yep, we're here.
Well, I can see that you get taken off the internet next as well. So I'm going to go.
Okay, see you later. Thanks for stopping by.
Take it easy.
Yep, bye. So I'm going to wrap this one up. I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by. We had a lot of viewers for this, and I'm glad they did, because I know that a lot of people wanted to see this. And so once again, I'd like to thank Sargon for stopping by. And, you know, I wish you guys would have been a little bit nicer, although many of you were wanting to call him out. But I'd like to thank everyone for the support. And I actually missed a few of these super chats, I think. So let me see. Dominic donated a couple times with no message that I think it got banned. Let me see. I think Dominic said prefer big-breasted hentai chicks than loli. What the fuck is Lolligate? Why is this even a debate? By Rocky. Senpai donated 20, whatever that is. Thank you. That was fun. Thanks, Sargon by Will. Dankula debate when by Suede. It's up to him. Peishing says loli's love, loli's life. I agree. And Dominic says I prefer big-breasted hentai chicks than loli. You said that twice there, dude. All right, so that's it. That's the whole stream. Thanks to everyone for stopping by. And I'm hoping that most of you were satisfied by this. And I apologize for the censorship that happened in the stream with people's messages. That was just YouTube. It wasn't me. All right. So unfortunately, I got to get up in the morning because I just got a case added on my schedule at like 7:30. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully you can do this again with Dankula. We can have a real fucking debate because he's the one that's really in the wrong. All right. Thanks for stopping by, guys. And thanks for your support.